Okay, gentlemen. Sorry, there was no announcement specifying that this hangout was going to occur, but here we are. I'm here with DoomRulz. Oh, Nico Chowski just decided to Skype me. I'm here with DoomRulz. I'm here with Turd Flinging Monkey, and we're going to discuss, I guess, what you could call. I know there's a lot of talk about MGTOW and whether or not we should take part in activism or just kind of let the system eat itself and consume itself. That's a process that can take a very long time, and we don't know when that's going to occur. We don't know if it's going to be a slow thing or a fast thing. So I think it's worth exploring the question of whether or not activism is something that MGTOW can take part in, and if so, whether or not there can be some kind of MGTOW flavored activism that is distinct from some of the MRAs out there. And we don't have any problem with MRAs doing activism, but maybe we can contribute something that is unique and has a MGTOW flavor to it. What do you guys think?
Well, certainly I think that MGTOW itself is, how can I put this? It's activism in and of itself. That is, when we create our messages, we tell men, here's why you should avoid marriage. Here's why you should, well, depending on who you are, why you should avoid relationships with women, romantic relationships, that is. And then we use these examples like, we talk about hypergamy, we talk about evil psych, all that sort of thing. That is our activism. It's just simply spreading the message. Here's the information. Do with it what you will. We're not busy fighting with people online on Twitter or Facebook, trying to prove a point and say, see, I'm right, you're wrong, type of thing.
Sure. TFM, any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've made the point several times. Women are like 51 to 55% of the voting population. The only way to get them on board any sort of social reform is to make it benefit women. Now, that's what the traditionalism inside the MRM is about. It's trying to convince women. You have like conservative women talking about how feminism is going to hurt society, it's going to damage a traditional family. It's basically going to cause men to give up their traditional responsibilities and walk away, which is what MGTOW is. So MGTOW is kind of a confirmation of the TradCon fear that men are going to walk away, the nuclear traditional family is going to fall apart, and society is going to fall apart. So we have their attention, but the problem is the only way to get them to come to the table and actually make any concessions is if it's to the benefit of women. Now, right now, women have all the advantages. They have the voting majority. They have all these privileges. Men are being burdened with all the responsibility. There's really no reason for them to make any concessions until, like, I call it the 11th hour compromise, when the collapse is just on the horizon and they see it coming. They see that when that collapse happens, they're going to be really screwed. They're going to try to make some kind of deal at the last minute to avoid going back to a patriarchy. And I say fuck up. Just, what, you made your bed, you're going to sleep in it. When the collapse happens and women go back to being property of men, then you know what, they get what they deserve. I really don't even have any sympathy for them.
Well, I certainly don't. I mean, look, women bear responsibility for their actions just like men, and they have, in the general sense, there's exceptions to this, of course, but in the general sense, they have demonstrated a clear pattern of behavior that shows that they are unwilling to stop this, I guess, kind of mad dash for privilege and legal protections under the law that men do not have access to the point where it is, at this point now, starting to, shake the foundations of our civilization. It's causing extreme amounts of chaos. It's causing extreme amounts of dysfunction. And, of course, like, I don't believe personally that, within any kind of time period in the near future, we're going to see, some kind of economic collapse. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But certainly things are starting to take form and coalesce in a way that doesn't look like there's a solution available other than some kind of cataclysmic event. But, in the meantime, we're stuck here with this legal system, and we kind of just have to see what it is that we can do, if anything at all. We can kind of pitch our tents and wait it out and conduct siege warfare, and I think that's what MGTOW is. But for the MGTOW that has decided, maybe I want to take part in some kind of legal activism, what suggestions could we put forth? I was thinking myself that maybe we could start with some kind of tactic that gives us plausible deniability, something that we can point to that says, look, see, the government isn't trying to help men, it's not trying to assist us in any way, and that way we can continue on with like bolstering MGTOW with that conclusion. And how we would do that is maybe we can do like a worldwide, or at least in terms of the entirety of Western civilization, because MGTOW spans, MGTOW is worldwide now. We can maybe start some kind of campaign within the MGTOW community, and all MGTOWs agree to kind of like put their subscribership or readership to this task if they agree to it. We can maybe send out a general bullet point list of all of the grievances that men have, issues with the child support rackets, issues with alimony, issues with male circumcision, etc. Just kind of go down the list and send them to every United States congressman, every United States senator, and then every person in the UK Parliament, and Australia, and even India, etc. And that's not designed to achieve any kind of progress. I think we as MGTOW know that no politician is going to touch that. But then, as we get responses, we can kind of load that into I guess a worldwide MGTOW database, like maybe scan copies of them sending back their generic responses saying, oh, we'll consider this, but really not doing anything at all and not addressing it in any real personal way. And now we have something to point to and say, look, these people are unwilling to do anything. Politics is not going to work. And so maybe now we can move forward past this idea that there's some kind of political recourse we can take. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's a brilliant idea, personally. I also think it would show the futility of the idea of a men's movement in general. Now, I'm speaking in general terms here. Some of you may remember I think it was earlier this year, maybe late last year, Stardust released a video called "The War Within, the War Without," where he spoke about the futility of a men's movement, because it seems like there hasn't been any sort of real accomplishment. I think Barbara, what you're suggesting would be ideal, because this way we can definitively say, look, they're not interested in helping us, so why bother interacting with them? Wouldn't it just be simpler to go your own way, check out a society, and just say, you know what, look, this is what you've created for us. We're not interested, so have fun making it work without us.
Yeah. I mean, it's. Look, I certainly wish the MRAs the best. I mean, I want them to succeed, but I think it's a fair question to ask. Can they succeed? And then we test that. After that, where do we go from there is the question.
Well, hold on. I want to add something. I think if the goal is to realistically accomplish something in the way of legal reform, we have to restrict our goals to something that doesn't negatively affect women.
Yeah.
So I think maybe prison reform, sentencing reform, something like that, maternity leave reform, where it affects both parents equally instead of the woman getting months off and the man having to report back to work in a week. And that's the way it is in Europe, where both genders get the same amount of leave off. So it's things like that to make things more equitable that way. But it can't. If it negatively affects women, women are going to rise up, and because they are the voting majority, they're going to squash that. But if it benefits men but doesn't necessarily hurt women, it actually has a slight chance of passing, as long as women aren't negatively affected. Now, if you just want to demonstrate the futility of politics in general when you are a minority, then yeah, you can go ahead and throw your grievances to the wall and see what sticks.
No, that's the purpose of that. I am under no impression. See, I'm under no impression, TFM, that would actually work. Let's say I was wrong, right? See, it's because we have limited resources and because we have limited pull, because we're still a small community. we have to try to maximize the efficiency of every potential activism event that we do. And so, hold on, Nico and Stardust might join us here.
Well, I mean, I used to be part of the Tea Party from 2009 to about 2012, and something that really disappointed me was the disparate reasons people were involved. So when I first got involved, because I was a libertarian, I thought this was finally going to be the movement that brought government spending down, that lowered taxes, that got government back to first principles. And what I found was probably about 50 to 75% of the people in the Tea Party were senior citizens worried that Obama was going to take away their Medicare.
Yeah.
So they were people benefiting from a socialist program, worrying about a new socialist program taking away from their old socialist program, and they had no interest in shrinking government or anything. So, and that's why the Tea Party dissolved.
I think that's one of the fundamental, I don't know if you would call it flaws of the Libertarian Party, is everybody wants small government until it starts affecting them negatively, you know? And
they want the programs that they pay for but don't benefit from to go away, but they want the programs that they benefit from to be enlarged. And it's much easier to get people motivated when you offer them something than when all you're offering them is for them to keep their own money. That's not a very motivating thing.
Yeah. It appears that Nico has joined us. Nico, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know if you can hear me well. I'm
Hello,
far
Nico.
away.
Hello, Nico.
Hello, my brother. I can still do that, fuckers.
Oh yeah, I forget. Stardust. He doesn't really like the Google Hangout interface, right? Or
yeah, he will join. I was just talking to him on Skype. I'm pretty sure he will be joining in a bit. He went to empty his bladder.
Okay. Yeah. No, I was just saying that. Yeah. That. Oh, okay. So I think we have Stardust here as well.
Holy shit! That is one hell of an image.
Yeah.
I kind of think it's majestic, but yeah, that's another way of putting it.
Is that an oxygen tank he's attached to?
No, it's well, sort of. It's for sleep apnea. Yeah,
Obstructive sleep apnea, yeah.
Most morbidly obese people, they don't get enough oxygen because it's blocked. Anyway, so yeah.
So, guys, let me give you a bit of a synopsis of what we've been talking about. We are talking about potential MGTOW-related activism for the MGTOWs that might consider or want to engage in some kind of activism. I know that's not a popular or common goal of MGTOW in a lot of cases, but for those that would want to, we're trying to determine whether or not there is a viable path that they could take.
I've been talking about it for 3 months, 4 months, and I've been getting hate. Yeah. Loads and loads of hate. It was brilliant.
Yeah. But I made the suggestion that as a form of plausible deniability, not some... Oh, wait. Hold on. Where did TFM disappear to? There's no limit on how many people we can have, correct? Or?
No. He will join. His connection probably dropped.
Okay.
Oh, really, man? I thought it was the chimp being afraid of the bigger gorilla.
So, I proposed a possible scenario that would allow us, before we start actually doing real activism, whatever form that may take, to have plausible deniability, meaning we would send out an inquiry to all of the political offices, the major political offices in Western civilization. So in America, we'd send a bullet point of all the issues that men face to each congressman. They would fucking respond with some bullshit about, oh, we take this issue very seriously, and, some generic fucking answer that's like signed by a Xerox machine, meaning that they don't intend to do anything about it. And we would like scan that as proof that these people aren't really interested in taking up this cause. That, in one fell swoop, would demonstrate to not just MGTOWs, but the wider manosphere as a whole, that politicians really aren't interested in taking these causes on, And so then we could start proceeding from there and starting to organize grassroots political initiatives that maybe are more streamlined towards MGTOW thinking. Like maybe we could start lobbying somehow for a I don't know, a donation drive to support and make reality the male pill, which will, you know, immediately help men in a visible way and in an irreversible way. You know, a political law can always be reversed. But, you know, I mean, that's just an idea I threw out there.
Well, I mean, the way that I saw it, I'm sorry for going first. It's I have been talking about it for some time. I think we still fairly small. I mean, I know my channel is small, but in general terms, we're not massive as a group. I know in realistic terms, we're a lot bigger than what the numbers show on YouTube. So I was thinking, first of all, the first order of business would be to create kind of like increase our numbers, create a unified kind of like term of what entails to be MGTOW and all that, then bring together the community slightly closer together, and then we see what else we can do from that. I mean, just being in the community and talking to MGTOW, the main thing that I've seen is that we have a lot of men that are hurting and are in need of help. So I was thinking maybe we can, well, I was thinking by the time that happens, I would hopefully have enough money and I could possibly open a small clinic for those men in the UK. But, you know, lobbying laws, maybe supporting worthwhile projects like the male contraceptive and all that, yeah, that would definitely be a way to move things forward. And we wouldn't have to do shit. It's something that would happen almost naturally. All you have to do is give money to people that require it to carry on with their research.
And TFM mentioned that if we did pursue some kind of activism, it would have to be something that doesn't negatively impact women. I want to ask TFM for some clarification on that because I believe that it could potentially be something that negatively impacts women, but women don't have to necessarily, like, as long as women don't know it, then we could possibly swing it, because the male contraceptive, the male birth control pill, will negatively impact women. But we could kind of maybe play to the vanity of women, and women, you know, whenever I see women talk about male contraception, it's usually some kind of appeal to their narcissistic inner selves or whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, well, we have to take birth control. It's about time men had to take birth control. So some kind of like narcissistic, oh yeah, you know, it's gonna make things easier for me. Maybe we can work that angle and, you know, get male birth control out there and get women to kind of get on board with it by appealing to their you know, vanity or whatever and self-centeredness. And then by the time we get it far enough, it's already established. And there's really no going back. I mean, you can't put that back in the Pandora's box.
Yeah, Barbarossa, if I might interject, I agree with you. I've had lots of conversations with women about this topic, and a lot of them, obviously, you know, female birth control isn't particularly healthy. There are all kinds of weird chemical, hormonal interactions go on. A lot of women don't feel comfortable with it, and they're always complaining, you know, not only do we have to take it, but I have to deal with, you know, the bloating and da-da-da and all this other stuff, and my personality is being warped. It's about time men do it, or kind of engage in it. Yeah. And if it's kind of trickery, basically, they're thinking only of the now, and if men could, I mean, if they say, yeah, we're willing to take that burden on, they're realizing they don't realize what a huge loss it would be to them to relinquish exclusive control. But if they did, and then, as you put it, you know, it's too late, the genie is out of the bottle. They can complain all they want, and then it really won't matter. Of course, there would be probably similar hormonal consequences for men, possibly. I don't know. Nico's a doctor. I guess I could ask him.
Well, one of the pills that I mean, we have hormonal contraception now. It's called chemical castration. Now, there is no other way.
Overdosing on synthetic testosterone as well. Okay, yeah, it's another option.
I mean, there is a hormonal pill that for men, which is showing positive results, but I don't think any man would want to play with his hormones because sperm production is related a bit to testosterone productions. Therefore, you don't really want to mess with those things. But there could be an enzymatic control that prevents sperms, even though they are produced, to penetrate the egg. So, for example, the acrosome reaction that is required, the lysosomes that are released to, go through the zona pellucida into the egg, all those things, you can potentially create enzymes that block those things. Therefore, a hormonal pill is not necessary, not for men at least.
Yeah, I see a lot of talk about using basically plant matter, different things they found in rainforests or what have you, that would not prevent, say, sperm production per se, but just make the sperm invalid essentially.
Yeah, that is the idea. From what I've read, from the limit, there is no research, by the way, on this. They're saying that they're doing research, and there is some kind of university in Indonesia which is doing research, but there is no published English literature on this. And I looked for it, and Dark Knight also looked for it. So I tried very hard to find a single paper that actually shows that the Gendarusa plan, which is what the plan is, actually has those enzymatic properties. There's not been an enzyme that's been identified or a property of a certain substance that's doing exactly that. So there is no evidence for that. However, if there is something, there could be potentially doing research right now on that. And with reversible vasectomies right now, you can have a small procedure that could potentially turn your sperm totally irrelevant. So even
that's
right
an
now,
important thing. With regards to the reversibility of vasectomies, I've heard different stories. I mean, some people make it out to saying it's easy. You go in, you get it snipped, and then you go back in, you get it reattached. I've heard other stories that it's not really that easy. So.
The reversibility is not 100%. They don't just snip now. There is other procedures that can use coils there. They just tie a knot in a way, if you imagine around it, so the sperm cannot move through the vas deferens. So there is a lot of things that they can do. They don't have to necessarily cut the duct there.
Does that have any does that cause like inflammation? I'd imagine that really isn't a good thing to tie your vas deferens in a knot. Like, are there any side effects to that, or?
There is always side effects. There is always side effects. I mean, the most serious side effects is usually bleeding, infection. Things like that can definitely happen with any procedure. But there is potential that, I mean, down there it's a sensitive area. You have a lot of nerves, many nerves around there. So all you need is someone that. Okay, I will try and be using the R a bit better. Anyway, so there are a lot of nerves there that you can potentially damage, and we're talking about cutaneous nerves that supply the skin of the scrotum. So yeah, there might be long-term pain.
I mean, anecdotally, I've talked to guys who got it done. They said it was a bitch afterwards. They suffered a lot. It wasn't just, I got it, I'm all set. They went through weeks, if not months, of pain, suffering, and unpleasantness, basically.
Yeah, it's not a great procedure, but as far as procedures go, it's one of the ones with the least side effects.
Yeah.
It's a sterilization procedure, by the way. I need to note that it's a sterilization procedure. It's not a procedure that you use just so that you prevent yourself from getting a woman pregnant once. It's not a condom.
Yeah, but that's the irony. Isn't it funny that, in order to protect male interests, a man's literally got to fucking sterilize himself if he wants to be more or less 100% sure that he doesn't get into a baby trap or something. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
If I may, though, I just want to go back to something, Barbara, you mentioned earlier, getting women on board to sort of appeal to that narcissistic tendencies and show, no, it is beneficial to you and so on and so forth. I like that idea because obviously it would be beneficial to us, even if it is beneficial for the wrong reasons. But talking about birth control for men, I'm just wondering though, the more outspoken militant feminists out there like Jessica Valenti, I can just imagine them, because they're the ones who always command the speaking podium, so to speak, going with the angle of no, birth control, this is the last bastion for women, and this should be a women's only domain, and under no circumstances.
They've already done that. This has already begun. Andrea Dworkin has talked at length, like for example, surrogacy. Feminists are vehemently opposed to that. And and the literature that they have put out in terms of that topic have shown a very clear and consistent opposition to these things based off of that gynocentric tenet that says that this is the last bastion of female control or whatever, and if we get rid of this, then men will have a cold calculating. This is like almost verbatim, like. Men will have a cold calculating control over women's bodies with the precision of a doctor's surgical instruments. That was like almost word for word, according to Dworkin. And a lot of modern day feminist groups oppose these things. And of course, we're talking about male birth control here, but the only reason that I believe this hasn't happened with male birth control and has happened with surrogacy is just because male birth control isn't available yet, whereas surrogacy and IVF is a real thing. It's an established thing. So yeah, it's going to happen, but I think that men I don't know if they'll actively advocate for male birth control, but if we get it out there, they'll adopt it. I think they won't pursue it, but if it becomes a reality, they'll adopt it en masse.
And I can actually predict exactly how women would react, I think. Once let's say the pill is out or whatever, some form of male birth control on the market, women would say, or their objection would be, men are going to use that to manipulate women in relationships and prevent women from having all the shit that they already do to us.
Exactly. Well, to go back to the actual statement, the female birth control, and I will say this because you have 102 people watching right now, and I want these 102 people listening to actually understand this. A woman will not get pregnant if she misses one pill. She will not fucking get pregnant if she misses one pill. She will not get pregnant if she misses 2 pills, especially if she's in the combined oral contraceptive, which the majority of women are, right? So if she misses 2 pills, she still won't get pregnant. Then she starts taking the pills normally. She resumes from where she was. Now, the chances of a woman getting pregnant from missing a pill or 2 pills would be probably 1 in a million, 1 in 2 million. 1 in 3 million, whatever. It's a very fucking high number, and I don't believe there is even a chance, right? Hormonally speaking, it should protect you very well. But you take a doctor and sit him, a fertility expert, whatever, and you sit him there and you ask him, is there a chance that someone can get pregnant if they're on the pill, or they missed 1 pill or 2 pills or whatever? And the doctor will tell you, well, theoretically there is a chance, like thinking there is a 1 in a billion chance. Right now, the majority of the generation that's been born, especially the first children of every marriage or whatever has been happening over the past 30, 40 years, has been the 1 in a billion chance happening again and again and again and again and again and again. Right? Men don't know this. Yeah. Right? And if there is a male birth control, all those children will disappear in one day. Right? Every man will start taking it. Men will adopt it en masse. No one will take a chance if he knows that he can take the pill.
Nico, if I can play devil's advocate here, we all know that men universally suffer from a combination of biology and also then social conditioning derived from that. What's to stop a man from saying, yeah, I know I'm controlling the reproduction here, but she really wants a baby and I want to please her, and so there's always going to be that element of the male willing to basically sacrifice his own interests, even if he has perfect control of, say, reproduction.
Absolutely, but the chances of that male being 18 to 25 are minuscule.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Well,
fair enough.
Can I just say this? So this is what we were actually talking about. Is as MGTOW, right? And if we want to pursue some kind of activism, because we're still a small group, because we don't have any kind of political clout or influence, and we don't have the type of resources that, for example, feminism has, we have to, pardon, no pun intended, plant our seed in fertile ground here. So if we want to pursue the male pill, we have to do it. Like we have to put our, line up our activism in line with the men that we want to help. So the men that are going to be saying, well, she wants the baby, I guess I better relinquish. We can't help those guys. They're fucked. They're gonna learn the hard way, right? So
yeah.
we have to just pursue activism in a way that's going to help, not necessarily MGTOW, but MGTOW-minded men out there.
Can I throw in my 2 cents?
Sure.
Okay, you asked me a question a few minutes ago. Let me just answer it.
Yep.
I think any sort of activism that harms women, and what I mean by that is in any way, like pursuing any sort of alimony reform, child custody reform, dead in the water.
Yep.
Women will not allow that because any gains made for men will come at the expense of women. Male birth control is fine. Surrogacy could work. I think what we could do is we can leverage the LGBT community, because you see what they accomplished in some of the southern states in marriage reform, where they're actually talking about abandoning marriage licenses and going to private contracts. It's a huge step, and it had nothing to do with men's rights. It was all because of the LGBT community. So we can leverage things like male birth control as an LGBT issue and completely avoid the male-female dichotomy that would allow women to take sides.
Yeah.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there, TFM. I mean, the only reason the male birth control might work, I say tentatively might, is because it wouldn't be perceived as an immediate threat. But I agree. I've said this before. I think male interests and female interests are essentially a zero-sum game. It's almost certain that we're never going to reach a point where people say, well, yeah, we should have enough. We should have the same amount of funding for prostate cancer as breast cancer. It's going to be an either-or, and only the things that are ambiguous and hard to detect as a threat are the things that could possibly pass through.
But I think what we're forgetting here is that men. All right, the reason men defer to women is because they're scared of being called a misogynist. They are biologically servile to women in many respects. But when we give men anonymity, and that's what the birth control pill will do, right? When they're allowed to kind of sneakily behind the scenes and not have to bear the burden of being called a woman hater or anti-woman, they will act in their own interests when they can do it secretly and confidentially, and nobody knows about it. And so, if we can get enough men that are just kind of quietly by themselves, not telling anybody about it, taking their birth control, they'll go ahead and do that because there's no social punishment, and women can't know. How's a woman going to know a man's on birth control?
It's like a man who watches porn and jerks off.
Exactly.
You don't go to work and tell your buddies about how you rubbed one out that morning.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I know some people who do that.
You'd be surprised, man.
Well, you certainly don't tell women that, right? At work,
is that hair gel?
Oh, ew.
At work, you don't tell women that because you're begging for a sexual harassment fucking claim. But yeah, give them confidentiality. They'll act in their own interests. There's no penalty for taking birth control other than not getting anybody pregnant, which isn't a penalty at all. So
I think what we could do is I'm not sure. Maybe Nico may be able to know if male birth control makes cum taste better, that could be a huge selling point.
Oh my god.
I'm thinking outside the box. But if you have some other angle, like if it's a side effect, oh yeah, you can't get someone pregnant, because I'm telling you, the LGBT community is like the gateway to get a lot, like surrogacy especially. Like right now, single men can't hire a surrogate or have a child through surrogacy because they only want it to be married couples who the woman is infertile because they don't want men to have that foot in the door to be able to bypass women and have a family without them. But the LGBT community, especially gay male couples, they can be like our foot in the door. Be like, hey, well, that's discrimination against gay couples. Oh, yeah, you're right, that is discrimination. And then they throw those laws out, and now single men can have surrogate families.
Well, they have the social inertia behind them. From what I understand, there's kind of like a pecking order with these things, and again, take this with a grain of salt, but I've read a couple articles that indicated that there's a pecking order where lesbian couples, they pretty much have the pick of the litter, and gay male couples, to a lesser degree maybe, but still statistically speaking, they can adopt at higher rates. They can do IVF at higher rates, and at the bottom of the rung is single men. I believe they're actively like almost discriminated against because people think that they're gonna fucking have these kids and abuse them or sexually abuse them or some shit like that, and so they're much less likely to allow a single man to adopt. Women have that kind of social quieting effect where if you crash a party or something and you're with a girl, you're much more likely to be accepted. But if you're just some random guy and you crash a party, everybody's like, who the fuck is this dude? Get the fuck out of here.
Well, so what you do is, and this is, I'm actually strongly considering this. I know I made a video a while about this. Just like coming out, quote unquote, as a trans lesbian. And because you're a single man, who cares? Or you and another MGTOW could just get together, like, yeah, we're both trans lesbians, and whatever. I mean, you get the kid, you have your family, you go about your business. You can just, if someone questions you, you're just a very butch trans lesbian.
Well, I've seen people bring up the idea that I'm against this because I'm against marriage period, but that two straight men that have no attraction to each other could, for the benefits, just decide to fucking get married.
I've already made the proposition to Dark Knight and to multiple male friends of mine that we should raise a family together. It's so easy. Now, there's probably going to be evidence at some point that how children of gay couples fare, and I'm talking about like gay men and lesbians and who does better and what. So I'm pretty sure that they will be doing quite well, right? Raised by two fathers rather than two mothers, or a mother and a father, and we'll see what is the best result. Now, if you want to do something, you can definitely do it now. No one's gonna come and check if you're bumming in your bedroom or anything like that. That doesn't matter. All you have to do is sign a piece of paper, and that's it. You're legally a couple, and then you can pursue raising children and all that, and adopting and surrogacy and everything.
My only problem with that is, if you and your buddy decide to just get married on paper for the benefits and to eliminate the stigma of being single men, if you decide if you just have a falling out, like he sells your PS4 for drug money or something like that, then you're gonna have a divorce. And let's say one of you makes significantly more money than the other, you're gonna have to pay your old friend alimony for the rest of his life. So that's my.
To be fair,
I agree.
Why would you marry a filthy console peasant to begin with? I'm just saying.
So there are many. I think it's a lot easier to trust men than it is to trust women when it comes to these things. You know that, well, all the guys, all the friends that I've ever had in my life, I've known them since, I don't know, they were 16, 15, earlier, some of them. They haven't changed at all. At all. Most of the men stay, if you don't get involved in drugs or you get married and a woman takes everything from you, you don't really change. So if you have a man like that, you can definitely do it.
Here's my concern, though, right? We all know, and we've all grown up with good, male friends or whatever, and we all know that sometimes our male friends, some girl, maybe it's the first time they've gotten, a lot of pussy or something, and and they disappear, or she'll like she'll turn them against you even, and all of a sudden he's like, oh, maybe you're influencing me the wrong way, and it's basically the fucking girlfriend's words coming straight out of his mouth. What if you're married to a guy, and all of a sudden he meets some new girl, because you guys are still both heterosexual guys, you guys are still going to be kind of going out and sleeping with women, and then some woman starts fucking, oh, you should be with me. Now he wants to marry this fucking woman because he's had a blue pill.
Barbarossa, man, I got the solution. The rule for heterosexual male marriage sounds so weird saying that, but you got to be MGTOW, because you would never fucking have that kind of arrangement. First off, blue pillar men would never fucking even. What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, they would both. MGTOW don't get married, so that would be a no-brainer to begin with. Yeah.
No, you just invite the girl over for a Chinese finger trap.
What is it? Wait, guys, come on. What is a Chinese finger trap?
Well, you put your fingers in both ends.
Hey, I like that.
The girl is the finger trap.
You anally obsessed piece.
I totally heard that the wrong way. Jesus.
I always heard that referred to as, maybe because I come from a ghetto culture. I always referred that that was called two in the pink, one in the stink.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, then your balls touch. If you're both hitting the DP, then your balls are touching, and that's kind of gay. No, one of you gets the mouth from the front, and the other one does it doggy style from the back, and you just kind of high five each other across your back.
Yeah, we call that the Eiffel Tower where I come from. You join hands over the woman.
That's
right. So that, yeah. Anyway.
I've also heard it called the chicken rotisserie.
Oh my god. If I may, I wanted to just bring up a point here quickly. Talking about male birth control. When I suggested the topic originally to Barbarossa when we were, way back when, it's funny. I look at the men's rights movement in its current form, just as an idea, and I think to myself, like here we are talking about male birth control, talking about practical applications, solutions, having a good laugh about it. I can't remember the last time I read anything in from the MRA side of things that was actively promoting awareness of what is it? Rhizug or Vasogel or any other form of male birth control that's out there, and I think to myself, so wait a minute, you're calling yourself the men's rights movement, but I don't see you actively pushing for solutions.
Well, that's because they're
man. That's why they're all political. They're not thinking about the other things.
And traditional.
Their whole business plan is to try to convert women from feminism to traditionalism, to try to build a political coalition. So their whole angle of attack is to try to convince women, no, traditionalism benefits women more than feminism, so that they can build this political movement. That's why they never really talk about men.
I entirely agree with you on the TFM. I just think that they realize that promoting things and ideas such as actual chemical means like birth control or what have you, there's going to be kind of failure arguments in the eyes of women. Women need, as you pointed out, to be lured into to it somehow, and I think they're advocating traditionalism because they're just being pragmatic. I don't think they actually believe in this. Well, how can we get women to sort of get together with us? I guess this is the best way.
No, it's absolutely because of pragmatism. I think they realized. I think originally, maybe a decade or so ago, they thought that they could just out-logic feminists, and the rational, undecided person would be like, I think the men's rights movement has the point. Let's go support men's rights, dear. And then when that did not happen at all, and they realized that women have a very strong own group preference and will just throw logic right out the window in favor of their feels, then their only method was to try to appeal to women's preferences by trying to present a better alternative than feminism, which would be traditionalism, the stay-at-home wife, sponge off your husband, never work again type of arrangement, as simply like the moderate position, like, okay, it's not as bad as feminism, but it still sucks, but women are 51% of the population, and we're never going to get anything passed if we actually try to fight for men's rights. So it's kind of like they've given up fighting for, they've given up on victory, and now they're just trying to some kind of compromise.
Well,
if I may too, I just want to ask if I may ask Stardust a quick question here, sir. Now that you're here, I was recently actually right before we started, I rewatched your video, War Within, War Without, and it got me thinking: is MGTOW maybe the men's movement of today, as opposed to what the traditional men's rights movement called itself? Is MGTOW?
I think so, and I'll tell you why. This is just my own opinion, essentially, but. The men's movement has been around, I mean, sort of the AVFM style has been around for a fair while, as I'm not mistaken, a couple of decades, actually. And they thought that they could essentially piggyback off the success of mostly second-wave feminism. Of course, they didn't take into account that nobody gives a shit about men, and we're just biologically hardwired not to. And so, in some abstract sense, I guess, MGTOW is a kind of men's rights movement. But it's just individual men realizing that the world doesn't give a shit about them, so they have to take control of their own lives and move their own lives forward. And taking that into account, that basically the government is going to save you. There are no longer going to be organizations that are going to save you. You have to save yourself. And that was just something that MRAs traditionally had never really spoken of, I think. And I think that's the big distinction. But if you look at it that way, it's definitely kind of a men's rights move in the sense you're giving yourself the right to evict yourself from the traditionalist paradigm or the simp paradigm or whatever, and you're just doing whatever the fuck you want, and you're saying, and then people are yelling at you and clamoring, oh, you need to do it, and you just say, fuck you, I'm just, one life to live, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
I wanted to bring up a point, maybe stress the universal approach that we should take, not just in terms of issues like birth control, but I've also talked with other MGTOW trying to get the issue of homelessness addressed. Yeah. And, of course, the various factors that cause the vast majority of homeless to be men are things that really we can't, that are out of our control. It has to do, of course, with a gynocentric society that puts, females' welfare above those of men. But if we were to ever launch some kind of, I think somebody has an echo going there, but if we were to ever have some kind of program to help homeless men, to get them off the streets, etc., we have to kind of limit ourselves to the type of men that are willing to implement behaviors after they get off the streets or whatever, that is going to prevent them from ending back on the street. So we have to kind of have some kind of filtering mechanism where we say, well, is this guy likely to get married and just end up right back where he started on the streets, with no food, or because his wife took him to the cleaners again, right? How do we kind of
well, if I might, and I hate to cut in, there's so many people, but I think that you're actually talking about a larger issue here, and we should definitely talk about the homelessness issue, but this is something we don't really talk much about, at least we haven't had an open discussion. I think the idea of, the kinds of friendships we form with men after we fully digested the red pill, and how that dynamic has completely, I know in my case and other people's case as well, affected their relationships with other men, former friends. The reality is they're like aliens in some way. And the thing you're talking about now, Barbaros, is that they're the same kind of guys. That friend that you were friends with for 15 years who's, still on his third wife or something like that. He might be your friend, but he doesn't have the mentality. I mean, I know it sounds selfish, but I think, if in that case, homeless men should be basically tested for essentially MGTOWness or red pill knowledge. Yeah. And generally speaking, I tend to limit my interaction with blue pill friends, because it's, if a blue pill friend comes to me and this happens, say, well, my girlfriend left me, what am I going to fucking tell him? I could tell them the truth, and I've told that to them before, and they just ignore it. So I just say, okay, drink a beer or something.
Well, that's the thing. Like, we don't. I hate to fucking be the guy to draw the fucking Matrix analogy, but you remember the girl in the red dress, and Morpheus is walking Neo through the crowd, and he's saying, look, as much as we want to save these guys, that we should, in a certain sense, they're almost an enemy. They're going to fight you on this, and we only have, again, limited resources.
They do fight us, man. We see it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. We have limited resources, how are we going to have any kind of effect if we're helping people that are going to put themselves in the same situations that we help them out of and fight us the entire way through? I mean, I just don't see that as a sustainable thing.
We can definitely, with regards to, let's say, scientific endeavors. Sorry, TFM. I'll finish in a second. With regards to scientific endeavors, we have a lot of men that know what they're talking about. For example, Dark Knight is a biochemist. We have people that have good background in many of the sciences, and all we have to do is utilize the people, the brains that we have that are just sitting and doing nothing, to get and analyze the research that we have right now, especially many of the contraceptive pills, especially for men, and a lot of research that goes into science, etc. We can find out which ones have merit, and we can support those projects. We can financially ask for MGTOW, and we can do that ourselves as well. We can financially support those endeavors, and everyone will benefit. I don't think right now sperm counts for nothing, right? It counts for jack shit. But once you enter the age of the male contraceptive, then sperm will start to have some kind of worth, and many men will realize this. And I don't think the majority of men want unplanned parenthood. They're not walking around and just want to get anyone they sleep with pregnant.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the reluctant fathers just they'll cave in. I guess I'll take care of the brat.
Yeah.
What about community outreach programs? Because I know that Immortal MGTOW and certainly Mayor as well, you guys will recall he had the homeless outreach program that he was working on. And a few months ago, Immortal said he wanted to start a sort of MGTOW house where men in the area, I don't know if it was for homeless men or for just red pill men in general, where a place where they could come together and share their experiences as a sort of support group. I think he started a GoFundMe project for that. I'm not sure if it's still active or not, but you know, I think those are certainly projects that are worth exploring.
Agree, but once again, as Barbarossa pointed out, I really think that so much positive male endeavor that could be done in an effort to help fellow men is going to be wasted unless, I hate to say it, they swallow the red pill fully. Because I mean, the blue pill it programs you to just repeat the same shit over and over and over again. And what good does it help you to help a guy who was married, got kicked out, couldn't pay, landed up on the street, and then he finally gets back on his feet and he's in the marriage 2.0 with the same shit. Yeah. We got to break the cycle, and breaking the cycle means making men realize how women fucking view them, no matter how it makes them feel. They got to fucking understand that before they're going to make progress forward.
Well, maybe we can kind of disguise it as I know fucking Alcoholics Anonymous has got like a cultish fucking vibe to it, and I don't want to like make that comparison. But for example, if we made a community outreach program, right? It's not just as simple as, all right, we're going to provide to you the alimentary goods or services or whatever that is going to help you get off the streets. But maybe we can say, okay, in order for you to take part in this program or whatever, or whatever it is, we need you to read this literature, and it's just going to help you kind of understand your place in society or whatever, and how society views men. And we can kind of just give a non-biased, factual, 90% of men commit suicide, blah blah blah, or I'm sorry, suicide statistics, child fucking custody statistics, and show them, is it in your interest to continue to get married, and just kind of pose the question, leave it out there, and let them decide in a way that's kind of approaching indoctrination. But if we don't indoctrinate men, then fucking feminists or traditionalists are going to indoctrinate them. I mean, it's I hate to use that term, indoctrinate. Maybe if we don't give them the tools they need to fucking see how they're being treated and viewed in society, then feminists and traditionalists will.
Yeah, well, like I made a couple of videos. I think the one I made most recently was the Awakened While Married video, where I talk about how a guy with 2 kids who gets divorced, he's basically working for negative money if he makes $50,000 a year. Because after he pays taxes, after his wife gets her alimony, after he pays child support on 2 kids, he has like negative $700 a year. And that's how, and actually I had some people responding to that video in the comment section saying that they were in that situation. One guy was living with his mom, and he made almost 6 figures because his ex-wife was getting all of his money. And then another guy said he actually had to live out of his car for a couple years in and out of homeless shelters because his ex-wife and his kids were getting all of his money. And he had a job, but he just couldn't afford to live and pay all of his child support and alimony. So I think if you're on the street because of that, I think those people are probably they're the low-hanging fruit for the red pill. Yeah. They probably already know the red pill. They just don't have a name for it.
Yeah.
Now the men, my worry is if we have, and I'm not sure how Mayor of MGTOW's program differentiates, but you have people on the streets who are there for substance abuse or alcoholism or something like that. Like they're not there because of gynocentrism. They're there because they're addicted to drugs or something like that.
Well, in the immediate sense, they're not. But of course, drug use is a lot of men that after fucking divorce, they turn to fucking drink and drugs.
Well, yeah, but if you,
I agree with Barbarossa there.
My concern is, we have limited resources. If you can only help 10 homeless people a month, you want to try to get to those men who are homeless because of women, not homeless because they have substance problems.
I agree.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't overlook the fact, this is really relevant. I just talked to a friend today who's been going through a really rough time. His uncle hanged himself because his own daughter, that is the daughter of the uncle, his cousin, falsely accused him of molesting her. Turned out it was, not true, but you can't resurrect the dead. And he was really close to him, and, he was talking to him, he was drinking. That's his fucking poison. So I think men, this is another reason why we need to get the information out to men, because they can fall into some really bad habits. And I agree with you, TFM, they're limited resources. But in order to prevent those really bad habits from happening, we need to reach them first. That's why I just think that getting that information out there has always been the most fundamentally important thing in the MGTOW message. Make sure people actually understand what's going on, understand themselves, and frankly speaking, understand that the women do not see you as a human being. You're just there to do shit for them.
Well, I think MGTOW, it serves 3 purposes. The primary purpose is it lets men know that they're not alone, that we're not crazy, that when we see these things, it's not just us, it's not that there's something wrong with us. The second thing is, it's a place to share knowledge. Like your videos are very academic and informative.
Not always. My latest one wasn't.
Well, that's what you're known for. But, we share these knowledge, we ask these questions, we do the research, we try to answer the questions that nobody else has either thought to ask or has been suppressed from being asked. And then the third thing, and I think this is the most overlooked part of MGTOW, is it's a place to be honest and to, I call it, brotherhood, because this is a reason why I think a lot of men drink, because when you're drunk and you're at the bar with guys, you can open up without being judged because you're drunk. Like if someone teases you the next day, you're like, oh, I was just drunk. Don't even worry about that. But really, you're getting a lot of things off your chest that is helpful. So if you can find a community that isn't, because the problem is men aren't allowed to be emotional or express themselves. We all have to bury it deep down inside. So MGTOW allows men to express themselves and be open and honest and have that brotherhood without having to, kill our brain cells with alcohol.
Well, I agree with you. I completely agree with you. And priority number 1 is spreading the message, increasing our rank so that we have more resources to play with. And once there is more of us around, the way that I saw it, the way that I envisioned that clinic that I wanted to open up eventually, was that I could pay for the place. People would volunteer some of their times to come in and just do some things, and then the social support and everything just happens naturally because the majority of MGTOW men are well knowledgeable. And they can pass on the message without me being there, without me doing all the support, without me telling them this is the papers that you need to fill in and all that. It's almost organized chaos. The MGTOW, as I see it, is almost organized chaos.
And we can definitely bring that organized chaos in the real world, and we can do it. But we need to have numbers so that we can utilize people that exist in certain regions. And once it catches on, then we're not just doing one thing for in one specific area. We're doing many things in many areas, and we do it under the MGTOW banner. And we are helping people, really helping people when they need it the most.
And I think men are much more likely to pay that fucking forward to the next guy. You know, when men, you know, I think one of the most important things about MGTOW isn't that we delve into human nature and female nature and male nature and all of that stuff. That's important, of course, but I think one of the most important things about MGTOW is that it gives men a type of inspiration that they don't find anywhere else in society. Men are emotional creatures, just like women. When we're
more emotional than women, and
yes,
you know,
yes.
Yeah.
And when we decide to, for example, dedicate our time to solving a problem, then the fucking logical brain kicks in. But what motivates us to solve that problem is usually emotional inspiration, and men going their own way gives that to men, right? And as we go out, you know, and grow our numbers, I think it's important that we have to give men something to be fucking inspired about. And a lot of these men that are feeling desperate and alone and confused about, you know, their divorce or whatever, they're just looking for another thing to latch on to inspire them and to give them fucking, you know, to give them fucking life back, not just existence, but life back, right? And I think that's what MGTOW excels at. That's why you've seen this rapid growth in the Google trends, this spike in traffic in terms of MGTOW, because we're saying something to men that they've never been told before. Their mothers and their fathers didn't tell them this. You know, the father probably because he was scared of pissing off the mother. But we're giving them access to a way of life that really is, I think, unique in terms of the manosphere and in wider society in general. If we can tap into that, you know, men will take care of the rest, I think. Or at least the men that gain access to this community. I don't know what you guys think about that, but
I think if I may, sorry, I just want to say I think it's important to lead by example in this case. You know, it's one thing for us to, like, you know, obviously all of us here together, we're discussing it, spreading the word. But let's say when I go out with friends, like to bars or whatever the case may be, you know, especially with my guy friends, you know, the best thing is just to lead by example. You know, they always talk about how they met this girl, they met that girl, this, that, whatever. I ask them, okay, well, hold on a second. Why are you pursuing this this endeavor? I mean, how do you feel it's going to add to your life? I mean, do you actually think this is going to enrich you somehow, or are you happy you're doing what you really want? For example, one of my hobbies is toy collecting, and I brought this up in my other videos, and you know, I tell my friend, and I say I do it because, you know, it's a hobby, it's fun, that's why I do it. Now I got a close friend who also enjoys doing it, and currently he's interested in a woman whom he's been on stage with. He's a fellow actor as well. And I tell him, okay, dude, fine, but honestly, just first of all, take it easy and stop thinking so much about what she's doing. What is she thinking? How does she feel? If she really cared about you in any way, she'd tell you. Just you focus on you. What makes you happy? You know, why are you so obsessed with what she's doing? Just focus on yourself. You'll be so much happier that way, and you'll have a lot less stress in your life. Yeah. As an example, anyway.
Yeah. Well, there's a psychology in that. Like, when a man doesn't care about a woman, he's basically communicating to her that his life is rich, and he doesn't need a woman in it to make it full. So that actually signals to the woman, oh, this guy has his shit together. He's a real catch. So I know that's like a PUA trick, to be like an asshole to women and act like you don't care, because it hooks them a lot easier. But it really works. Like, we have this biological drive to obsess and to chase after women, but if you just resist that, you actually get more pussy in the end, if that's what you're after. Because the women will be like, oh, wow, this guy really doesn't care about me. Oh, his life is full and he doesn't need me. Wow, he must be really great. I'm going to spread my legs for him. But if you chase her and you're like, oh, yeah, I need you. I think about you all the time. She's like, oh, this guy's a creep. I'm out of here. So it's just
I think what
women logic.
I think there's a little bit. I mean, I think what men ultimately are after, and I've noticed in myself when I feel slight pangs of regression, we all feel those sometimes. Is it's not the sex thing. Frankly speaking, I've had sex in over 4 years, and I mean, had enough sex before that. It's just when you do. Well, yeah, I mean, it sounds crazy, but you go long enough. It's like if you don't have pizza for over 4 years, you really think you're going to spend lots of time thinking about having pizza all the time? Not really. So you just it's the whole male mother need thing. I mean, why are these guys chasing down their women? It's not just so they can get their dick sucked. That's part of it, you know. But it's the quote unquote female companionship. You know, basically women give essentially nothing to men. I mean, they don't give them anything intellectual. They don't give them anything, I would argue, even emotionally stimulating directly to think about. But it's that whole, you know, being in proximity to a woman, that sort of, that feeling, this sort of, quote-unquote, magical feeling that men get. And that's really hard to talk men out of. And you, even going your own way, you can have sort of mental relapses into that sort of miasma. It's not just about fucking, I think.
Well, yeah, that's like one of my first videos was about She'll Never Love You, talking about how men and women love differently. And what the love men have, the love men express, and the love men ultimately desire, women can't provide.
Well, I know. Rollo Tomasi, he calls women's love opportunistic love, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So I'm glad I'm not the only one breaking this ground, that it's been well trod.
We've been talking about this for years, essentially. I mean, I don't even like the term love. I think it's just a terrible word. For one thing, because there are, if we want to stick with it, there are two different words. You have, you know, the opportunistic and male love, which is idealistic. But Western society, in particular, just in every image and thought we associate with love is the male love. It's idealistic. Because opportunistic love doesn't inspire anyone. It's essentially mercantile. So, yeah, that nobody wants to put it. I would just get rid of the words love completely and just refer to different reproductive strategies. You know?
Yeah, we should really start viewing it as different types of arrangements that short circuit the female fucking defense mechanism to like select men, you know, and you know, that's what the PUAs I guess attempt to do, but they really don't tell you that in order to really get women by not caring about whether or not you get women, you have to actually not care about getting women, and that's not the case with the PUAs. I mean, clearly they devote, you know, massive amounts of time, blog post after blog post, dedicated to figuring out how to get women.
Well, I see a good benefit to this. I mean, the majority of like understanding female nature, they did it very well. So we can basically build on top of that. I know Rollo, I mean, Stardust mentioned him, and hopefully he'll show up in 20 minutes and I can interview him. But he did a very good analysis of female nature. He does an excellent analysis of female nature, and he doesn't beat around the bush. He just says it as it is. Now, we can utilize that, and then we can apply that to our own lives. I think it's essential for any MGTOW to understand female nature. It's essential for every man to understand female nature. Now, if you're 15 and you have a teenager who you're related to, a cousin or whatever, and you're wondering what you should teach him when his hormones are kind of like urging him to do things, then just teach him about female nature. Once he knows one or two things about female nature, he's a lot better off.
Yeah. Well, I think that PUAs, I agree with you, Nico. They have a pretty good grasp of what female nature is. I think they never ask. I think what PUAs are in essence a truncated form of MGTOWs, in that they've explored and understood and deciphered female nature, but they didn't really go to the next question and decide to explore exactly what it is in male nature that fucking makes them so obsessed with female nature and needing to have women, approve of them. They kind of stop there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the incomplete analysis, and that's what gets them into trouble.
Or they're trying to have it both ways. They understand female nature, but they still have these desires, and they think that by using their knowledge of female nature, they can have the best of both worlds. Like they can use their PUA tricks to control a woman in a world where the woman has all the weapons to use against you, and they can somehow make it work through the power of their charisma.
Well, there's a lot of mental gymnastics going on where a lot of these PUAs, they know what's up. They know that women essentially can't love them, and then they'll advocate for all sorts of, like, I've seen, for example, there was like a couple of notable PUAs talking about like even marriage. You know, it's like these guys are really taking.
Rollo is married. Rollo Tomasi is married.
Yeah.
In his defense, he was married before he got red.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, like I don't give a shit if the guys, but I've seen a lot of these PUAs rationalize this and talk about going back to traditionalism. We saw that with the whole neo-masculinity thing, which is just basically like PUA 2.0, which is just basically reconvening with the fucking gynocentric fucking spirit animal, essentially is what I call it. They're going back to the gynocentric core of what started this all. They explored this, they understood it, and still decided to get reabsorbed by the fucking Borg. It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
Well, go for it.
Okay. Well, okay. So they have these mental gymnastics. They'll say like, oh, if you just discipline a woman and you keep her on a leash and you show her what an alpha male you are, she won't leave you, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, she could call the cops on you for disciplining her, She can file abuse charges. Like, oh, she'll never do that because you'll have her under your thumb. It's like, you're fucking retarded. Like, she's going to destroy your life and take your money and your kids, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's like this one guy...
They got drunk off their power. They believe that their understanding of female nature is going to allow them... I mean, they think that they have such a control over it and such an understanding of it that they're not accounting for the anomaly, they're not accounting for what they don't understand, and they have so much confidence in their abilities that eventually it's going to bite them in their ass.
Yeah, all it takes... Sorry. Go for it.
Okay. Your most recent video, TFM, was quite good. I enjoyed it. And I was thinking about, I probably won't make a video about it now, but when you talked about the Flemish island survival thing, which has become quite famous, right? How the men had to step in. And now I wanted to talk about it on a personal level because very often my past experience in relationships, when you assert authority because there's chaos, the woman's whining, and what do we do? And you say something, somewhere down the line, she can actually resent you for that and get you into trouble for that. So that's another thing. Even when you are temporarily successful in your exerting your authority or asserting your authority, and as we saw on the island experiment, on a personal level, an interpersonal level, women tend to resent that. They sometimes know, fuck, he just that's been my experience at least, and that's why I don't think the PUA tricks are, in addition to the legal dangers, are always as successful as they claim them to be.
Well, I would agree, and I mean, depending on who you... recently I was watching an interview of Rollo. I don't remember the guy who interviewed him, and he said, he's married, and he said he can wake up tomorrow and everything could be gone, right? His woman might wake up and realize that he's no longer alpha in her brain, and then she wants to try something else or whatever, and then she can go and do whatever. The legal danger is there. The legal danger will never disappear, and in my interpretation of alpha beta males, which I don't believe in that, I really don't believe in that, but I do think in a woman's brain there is this dichotomy between alpha men and beta men, and whatever you are, it's how she's going to treat you. Now, the woman is constantly reevaluating this relationship with constant shit tests. The thing is, you don't even know when a shit test is being played. Right, and you might be actively or inactively be passing those shit tests, but you don't know. You might be tired one day. You might be tired for a month. You might be having trouble at work, whatever. And the frame cannot always be maintained. And with the rights that women have, legal, as the MRA keep pointing out and we keep pointing out, then they can take you for a ride. They can destroy your life. That's the problem that PUAs have. And I think at the end of the day, Roosh, Rosie, all these guys who are reaching their 50s, let's say 40s maybe, and they start to think maybe I need to settle down now, I'm not going to be picking up women forever and stuff like that. Maybe that's what we're seeing with their neo-masculinity thing that's coming into the picture. It's their attempt to settle down.
alternatively, they might be seeing how futile. It's like, oh man, I got laid all these times, and what the fuck? It wasn't a big deal. I spent all this time chasing pussy when I could have been, I don't know, putting together model boats or something that I really enjoyed, and or teaching myself a new programming language, or I mean, I think that's part of it. That's a profound difference between MGTOW and PUA as well, is that we actually assign great importance to our own personal hobbies and endeavors, and if need be, to the extent that there might be some overlap, we're willing to assign more importance to them than to the point of total exclusion of pursuing women, because our personal interests surpass our interest in women.
Well, I think it all comes down to external versus internal validation and identity. So I think the PUAs, they fall into the trap of the traditional male identity of defining your masculinity as how many pussies you've been in and all this other stuff, like how hot your girlfriend is. So that's what they define themselves as. So if they don't have that, they don't know how to define themselves. Where MGTOW, we have our stuff we do. We can define ourselves through our own goals and our own achievements. We don't define ourselves by a woman, her approval, stuff like that, which is why PUAs and MGTOW tend to butt heads, because they accuse us of being hopeless virgins, we accuse them of being gynocentric, beta, just chasing after female approval, and then we don't come together. We have more in common than we're different, but the differences are pretty stark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just think we're two different groups of men that have identified similar identifying factors of female nature, and have taken two different approaches to addressing it. And there's that, and a lot of these guys, PUAs, if you put it in Google Trends, is actually starting to go down, and MGTOW is starting to go up. So maybe there was bound to be some kind of conflict there. I'm perfectly happy to let them just do their thing or whatever, but I think in this recent round of skirmishes that we've had, it was really them that kind of, people like Matt Forney, this guy, he called us essentially fat video game playing, Cheeto eating versions, and then we saw him.
I take offense in the Cheetos.
What's that?
I take offense to the Cheetos.
Yeah.
Well, I don't get is like people like Matt Forney and Aaron Clary, because they're not even attractive. Like Aaron Clary's like a hobbit. He comes up to like the kitchen counter. So, well, there's this picture. There's this picture of him where he has like two girls, and he like comes up to like their chest. He's like got his arm around them like he's their son. And
I think you're referring to Clary, not Forney.
Yeah, no, Clary. Yeah, Forney's just like a fat, balding guy. Like, I don't get these unattractive guys who think they're like getting all this pussy. It's like, unless you're paying for it, I don't think you're getting a lot of pussy. I think you're just delusional.
Well, yeah, like I saw that picture you're talking about. Those chicks were like Amazons or something. They were like really fucking huge. But like, like Forney in particular, I'm sure you guys remember all the fucking drama that happened with the doxing or whatever. And then I saw Forney's picture, and look, I don't care about this guy's attractiveness. I've never been concerned with that. I would have been more than happy to just keep my image off of the internet or whatever, or not associated with my YouTube. But in terms of like objective attractiveness, most girls would judge Forney. And again, I don't care about his personal attractiveness. It's not of any concern to me. But most girls would see him and judge him as an unattractive person, right? I mean, I don't understand. It seems to be projection on his part, I think.
Well, I think the PUAs, like, there was, like, I was not really affiliated, but before I found MGTOW, I watched some Manhood Academy videos, and I know, I went to the dark side, but they have these videos of these PUA conferences, and because they sell tickets to like these conferences and these workshops, and it's like the saddest boys you've ever seen. Like, you could just tell, like, they're just desperately trying to get laid, and so they give all these money to these PUAs, and I guess them being unattractive is kind of like maybe one of their selling points. Like, hey, I'm an unattractive guy too, and I get all this mad pussy, so give me your money and I'll teach you how to get mad pussy too.
I really, really hope that PUAs and MGTOW never come together, just because there will always be negative connotations with the PUA community. I'm sure you all heard about what happened to Rushdie in Montreal recently when a feminist attacked him in public and threw beer on him or something. I thought, Jesus Christ, you guys are so far gone that there's no hope for you. No. You know, there's a lot to learn from MGTOW. I hope we never become like that.
I completely agree with you, because that's my objection. I mean, I know somebody, I'm not going to name names, claims I want to create MGTOW philosophy at a university and, you know, create a department for it, but no, I made that point in blotting out the sun. I mean, it's a good thing that MGTOW is only kind of semi-mainstream. It's mainstream enough that tons of guys are catching on and catching wind of it, but it's not mainstream enough that, you know, people are, if we were to ever have some sort of big hangout, there's all the MGTOW hangout, send in the fucking National Corps or something like that. So it's actually a bad thing to get too much exposure, in my opinion, because the way we speak about women, even if it's the truth, even if we're being totally neutral about it, to normal people, it sounds bad, you know. And we could easily be sort of demonized in the same. I mean, we're not saying, you know, go fuck as many women as possible, but we're saying that essentially women can be selfish cunts and don't fucking give a shit about men. And, you know, in some ways that sounds even worse. How can you say something like that? And if most people started to hear that, oh, this is what MGTOW are saying, they wouldn't try to refute it, because we could bring up tons of evidence. We could, you know, divorce rates, everything under the sun. But I think in a way it's good that we're only sort of semi-mainstream and that we continue that way. In the same way as Barbarossa brought up, that's how we could bring the male pill to people. It's kind of under the cover of night rather than just sort of getting completely out in the open, exposing ourselves.
Well, and I think that's also the path for asexual reproduction, like the artificial womb. You don't couch it as, hey man, this is going to liberate you from your need for women, and we can do our own shit. We never have to deal with women again. Yay! You know, that will bring out the long knives. But if you couch it as, hey girls, you don't want to get fat, and you don't want to get stretch marks, and you don't want to have to take 6 months off of your work. Don't you want to stay slim and trim but still have that baby you always wanted? Well, here's the artificial womb. And other girls are like, oh, wow, this is great. I don't have to get stretch marks. I can have a baby without it impacting my career while I'm pregnant. I don't have to worry about morning sickness. I don't have to worry about complications. I don't have to worry about my vagina getting stretched out to the size of a watermelon. Then when it gets implemented and you actually have mainstream artificial womb technology, then when the consequences for men's rights and asexual reproduction hit, and then men start rejecting women because they don't need them to have families anymore, then it's too late.
If I may,
I agree to a degree, but okay. So a lot of times because of course the artificial womb is so far away, at least, you know, decades and decades away. But we can kind of draw parallels to technology that already exists. And we could, for example, there could have been people before abortion became, medical, modern Western medical abortion became on demand or whatever and available to men and available to women. There could have been people having this conversation saying, well, when women have on-demand abortions, then we can sell it to them as, oh, it's their rights, it's their reproductive rights, and then we can kind of sneak in legal paternal surrender. But at the same time, look at what happened. You know, women got their abortion. They did so. They advocated it because it appealed to their their sense of like entitlement and empowerment. They got their right, and men didn't get theirs. Right. So that could end up happening with the article.
Well, the reason why legal paternal surrender is never going to happen is because Nico's gone. Am I still here? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Everything got really quiet, so I guess it was Nico that I had the echo on. Yeah. Anyway, if legal paternal surrender was a thing, and men could just basically say, I don't want anything to do with your child, I didn't want it, you tricked me, bye, then the state would have to come in and raise that child financially through welfare. Mm-hmm. And the state doesn't want to do that, so they have a vested interest. And the thing is, the state doesn't care about double standards. They will absolutely have, I mean, there are so many laws that don't apply to members of Congress. Yeah. So it's a blatant double standard. They don't give a shit. So now with the artificial womb, there's no burden on the state. If a man has a child through the artificial womb or a couple has a child. I mean, there's no one. So it's a little bit of a difference, apples and oranges, because with paternal surrender, the state would have to step in. With the artificial womb, there's nobody. It doesn't cost anybody any money to have the artificial womb versus natural birth with a woman.
Yeah.
So I don't think that situation. Again, it does, as long as it doesn't harm women, there really isn't an issue.
What do you think is going to happen? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to ask a controversial question. I'm probably going to catch a bit of flack for this, but since we're on the topic, Turtling and Monkey, when you brought up the artificial womb, it just got me thinking, and this is a topic or a question I asked Razorblade Candy some months ago. MGTOW, even though it's for men, obviously, by definition only, does that by proxy make it a sort of, and again, I apologize in advance for what I'm about to say here, but a sort of female empowerment? And here's what I mean by that. Well, the artificial womb it benefits men, and men going their own way if they want to have kids. Here's a way to do it. But now women, it's like Turtle, like you just said. Oh, women can go have their own babies now because they don't have to worry about how it's going to physically affect them. Well, ladies, here's that empowerment and that independence you always wanted. So now you don't have to worry about us anymore.
Well, they'll still need the sperm and and all of that, but of course these things are a trade-off. Well,
but dude, okay, that's the one area to look at it. But I mean, think about the fact, and Girl Rights Web point out in her most recent video. I mean, men make up 75% of the tax contributions. I mean, they're going to still need men to run society, even if somehow we were to cut out the sperm factor. I mean, society won't run without men willing to run it. Period.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, maybe we can. Maybe I think because of course the artificial womb is something that's important, but I think it's a three-pronged effort. There's reproduction, there's sexual access, and there's male mother need. We have to figure out how to address these three things. We have to figure out how to give men an outlet that does not involve women, that allows them to pursue these three things. And once we do that, we can start making some real progress. Male mother need is a problem all on its own, and we've talked about that extensively. But for now, I'm going to focus on the other two, which is the artificial womb and sexual access. I just saw Pornhub. They're developing these like interactive, like not even I don't even know if they're like these fleshlights, but they look real, like a real woman's ass, essentially. I was sitting there with my girlfriend thinking, fucking damn, this shit is like really advanced, and even if I had a girlfriend at the time, I would still probably want one of those in my arsenal, so to speak. I think that the future of sexuality, male sexuality, is going to clash with this world of ever-advancing sex toys, and it's going to be some very interesting results. Maybe we can work that angle,
Yeah, well, women have had vibrators and dildos for how long? I mean, even women, and the thing is men aren't intimidated by sex toys. Like, if you go to a girl's house and she has, like, a giant dildo next to her bed, it doesn't really bother you because women don't need men for their dicks. They need men to take care of them and do all the stuff men do. So it's not a threat. However, a sex toy that replaces a woman's moist hole is a threat to a woman herself because she offers so little else other than that moist hole. So while we're not intimidated by a dildo or a vibrator, she would be very intimidated by like the twerking butt or these other kind of doggy-style sex toys, especially when you pair that with, like, the thing is a sex toy like an ass that's paired with a fleshlight or something like that. There's obviously the rest of the woman's body that you would obviously not see, so it would still feel like a toy. But when you pair that with virtual reality, where you could see the rest of the woman, and because obviously you only have two hands, if you're grabbing her ass because you're having doggy-style sex, you don't necessarily need to touch the rest of her.
Well, that's what they're doing. I mean, that's what Pornhub created. They actually have essentially like a silicone mold of a woman's ass with an anatomically correct woman's ass, partnered with the thing called the Oculus Rift, where you can you can just put that on and feel as though you're having sex with your favorite porn star or whatever, right?
Expensive
Yeah.
ass shit though. I think it costs $800 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it was like $600-700 if you wanted the VR headset. So it's still expensive. Now you look, but here's the thing: if you want like a realistic sex doll that actually has like a human-looking face and realistic feeling skin, you're talking like $2,000. So going from $2,000 to $700 is a pretty steep drop. So I think virtual reality is going to be a pretty big game changer. And I think women are going to be very intimidated by that. But what I think is interesting is because there's that one TEDx talk about how having sex with a sex robot would be rape because robots can't consent. If you have virtual reality paired with a sex toy that's just like an ass, it's not like an entire body, you can't argue that that's some sort of being that needs to consent. So that would eliminate that whole attack angle from feminists.
They're going to have a hard time personifying ones and zeros in an Oculus Rift machine, you know, in machine language. I mean, it's a long stretch to be able to attach personhood to that. Maybe, you know, in 100, 200 years or however long it's going to take, where you have actual sex bots, you know, androids or whatever it is, artificial intelligence. Whenever we break that that barrier, maybe then they'll be able to make that argument effective. For an Oculus Rift, that's a stretch. They're not going to be able to pull that.
You know, I'm thinking of two possible consequences due to the popularity of advanced sex toys and virtual reality. One, which is very unlikely, women actually start working on themselves and they actually become, well, you know, more than, I mean, let's be honest, they're only really good for fucking. Something beyond that, which is unlikely. Or conversely, you know, one thing we've seen with the spread of pornography and the liberalization of our society, I mean in the classical sense of liberalization, is that, you know, women are just easier. Maybe women will become even easier. Like, well, yeah, you get this virtual reality thing, but, you know, you can just walk up to me and say, let's fuck, and we'll do it. You know, I see that as a possibility, as a response to that. Because I think women instinctively, they only really know how to offer men something on the sexual level. They tend to fail at every other level. So at best, they might try to compete by making themselves even more available than they already are.
Well, here's an interesting thought. Sometimes masturbation is better than sex with a woman.
Well, it's quicker. If you just need it, like, sometimes I got shit to...
Sometimes it's more enjoyable.
Yeah.
You know?
I look at the pragmatic, you know, if I have a lot of shit to do and I got that annoying, like I need to fucking spread my seed shit, you know, I turn on some porn, wank it off in less than 10 minutes, and I'm out the door. And, you know, that's just not really an option. I mean, yeah, I agree with, well, it's been a while for me, but certainly it's more just convenience. And women can never offer you that.
Well, sometimes you have a girl who, her engine takes a lot more priming. So you're sitting there, like, rubbing her clit and fingering her for, like, 10 minutes. Your wrist is starting to hurt. And then finally she's ready to go. And you get your, like, 30 seconds of friction. And you're like, God damn, I should have just jerked off. And then I wouldn't have this cramp in my arm tomorrow morning.
Well, it's not just that. I used to, when before I went my own way and just stopped fucking altogether, I would have fucking arrangements. And I would get so bored in the middle of it that I like fucking her doggy style, sitting or kneeling there thinking, why am I here? I was using the condom, so I didn't really feel anything. I just stopped. I went home. I spanked off, felt better. You know, in the middle of the act too. So yeah, there are a lot of instances where masturbation can be just a lot better than.
Yeah, I've noticed. I like. I know you don't have sex anymore, but the ecstasy condoms from Trojan. Okay. They feel a lot better. Like regular condoms, yeah, you don't feel anything. What's the point? You might as well just get a blowjob. But with the ecstasy condoms, there's like more room in the tip, so it actually kind of feels almost. It's like it's still not as good as going raw, but it's at least something. You at least feel something other than like you're having sex with a condom on.
Yeah.
Well, the whole point I was trying to make is that with the comment about masturbation being better than sex, is if we can strategically up the frequency with which masturbation, including sex toys, with sex toys, for example, is more enjoyable than sex with your girlfriend, or at least approaching that, right? Then I think that's key. because there's, I mean, I think there's very little investigation as to why a certain masturbation session is preferable to sex with a woman, right? If we can start exploring that and investigating that, I mean, and then imagine a countrywide or a survey of the UK of men, asking them, when you have decided, if you had sex available but decided instead to masturbate, what was the reason you did so, and what was the type of porn you watched, right? If we can get some kind of survey like that, we can start really teasing out what it is that men find more erotic and enjoyable about masturbation than with their women or whatever. Maybe it's the variety of porn, who knows? And then we can start catering to that.
Well, I don't know, just anecdotally, like, it depends on the girl. Like, if the girl is just going to lay on her back with her legs open, and I'm doing all the work, I mean, I'm basically using her to masturbate. I'm masturbating with her vagina. But if you got a girl that actually, like, knows how to, like, ride you and jerk you off and suck your dick right, then, hey, we got something going on here. But yeah, there's too many dead fish out there that just lay there with their legs open and just moan and think that, like, oh yeah, that was amazing. Like, oh yeah, you laid there with your legs open. That was awesome.
Yeah.
There are tons of them. My last ex, I deflowered her. She was quite attractive. Some of the worst sex I ever had. I mean, I was, at the time when I was kind of purple pillar, I was in my early kind of mid-30s. She was in her early 20s, so I thought, gold mine. And all the looks in the world didn't fucking help when she just fucking, was lying there like a dead fish. It was horrible. It didn't matter if she looked good, really good. It was just bad.
Yeah. Men do the vast majority of work during sex, right?
They do the vast majority of everything. What is it they don't do the vast majority of?
Well, you know what?
Well, if one were to consider complaining work, then
well, you know something? I think it's fascinating that you say when you say men do the majority of the work. I don't disagree with that, but I'm wondering, does that just highlight the fact that women are just that they really are hardwired to be traditional through and through? Because think about it, even in the bedroom, the man's doing all the work. So really, what's the
and also the man has an instinct to please the woman. Like men get off on seeing the woman moan and watching her come and stuff like that. So it's, even though she's just laying there, she's not doing anything. Like to him, like to stimulation wise, he might as well just be jerking off into his sink or something like that. But seeing a woman actually writhing with pleasure actually gives him pleasure. So I think from a psychological level, maybe even a biological level, we want to kind of serve and give pleasure to women, and women really aren't programmed to give pleasure to men. They're programmed to receive pleasure.
Yeah, I agree with you, TFM, but I'm starting to think that as one takes the red pill or embraces MGTOW, that starts to really fucking change, because I've gotten it's changed, man. I think that, especially in terms of how much you female validation, I think there's a correlation to that, attached to that, in terms of how much you get off on seeing the female, writhing in pleasure. Because now, I'm just like, you know what, I want a blowjob, and I'm just trying to get mine, get yours,
yeah, but when you watch porn, do you prefer to watch the porn where the woman's actually like into it, or do you prefer to watch the porn where she's just getting the dick in and out and she has no expression on her face?
I watch like domination porn,
No, I agree with you, TFM. Porn where the woman's just a fucking dead fish is boring. There's no point in watching it. On the other hand, some of the really fake-ass, exaggerated stuff that some porn stars do it's just kind of a turn-off, too, because it's so... if you watch like BBC on white women porn, and it's so big, it's just it's so exaggerated, and it's being implemented in the fakest way possible. He's like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, you could tell if it's real or not, because like the big things are she'll get flushed in the face and she'll lose her breath for a second, and then usually right after that happens, the scene will cut because she has to take a break. So that's when that's the sweet spot. That's the highlight reel. But yeah, when she's just like, oh yeah, I'm coming all over you. Yeah, like whatever.
Yeah. No, that's why I think that's why amateur porn is so popular now. You know?
Yeah, I agree.
People really want the real thing, you know.
Yeah.
They want to be convinced.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think porn is a really good, as you put it, a good sort of precursor. I mean, already porn has turned a lot of men off to making just a huge amount of effort with women, and if the next step up is virtual reality and things you can combine with it, then it's gonna be pretty. It's gonna be, I just love to hope. I think we'll probably still be around, but when that actually happens, to see the reaction of women.
I want to make one more point, and then I gotta get out of here. But when you have right now, I always have like kind of a calculator in my mind, whether or not to get a call girl or whether to go on a date. So a call girl costs about $200. Now, since like really getting involved with MGTOW, I don't even think about that stuff. But back in the day, so a call girl is like $200. A dinner at Olive Garden is going to be about $60. So if I can get into a girl's pants within 3 dates, I'm ahead. So I may be leaning towards dating versus a call girl. So when you have virtual reality porn that's free, or it may be like a one-time deposit of a couple $100s for the equipment, that completely changes the dynamic, because now it's like, okay, I got a call girl for $200. I got dates which could run 60 to whatever, depending on what date she decides to put out. And then I have porn that I already have the equipment. It's free. I can get it done in like 20 minutes. I just have to set everything up, find the video, rub one out, and clean up. Then there you go.
On top of that, you have much more variety available to you. You can have, I don't know, Asian, white, Hispanic, black, whatever it is that takes your fancy that day. And it's the equivalent of having every flavor of Cocoa Puffs, Fruity Pebbles, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and you never have to worry about lacking variety in that case.
What's interesting about that, and I don't know if this may just be part of my instincts, is I tend to, when I find a porn star I'll like stick with her for like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Where I'll just watch the same kind of videos from her. I'll just almost get on a kick with her, and then I'll move on. I'll move on after a couple weeks, find a new porn star.
Dude, isn't it interesting the patterns in the way men search for porn? I know I get like little I get taken with a certain category. Like I know I was hooked on Alexis Texas. I don't know if you guys know her, but I was hooked on her for a little while. And then the worst thing ever, I'm sure you guys have encountered this, is when you lose a porn that you go back to a lot, and you can't fucking find it anywhere on the net, so you fucking spend like an hour trying to find it again, and it's fruitless. But yeah, I'd love to see some kind of study on. They actually did some kind of study, if I recall correctly. It turns out women, in the vast majority, the top search term for women looking at porn is lesbian porn. Isn't that interesting?
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what's hilarious about especially when I have to listen to people who talk about pornography is degrading to women, it promotes violence against this, that, whatever. For fuck's sakes, I hear the way women talk in the bedroom, even like in reality, and I think, who's degrading you? Is it the man, or is it you? Because you hear this stuff like, oh, hurt me, make it this, that, whatever. I'm not the one degrading you, sweetheart. You're doing it to yourself. So please don't bitch at me.
It's bullshit. So many women wannabes. I've had numerous girlfriends that requested being slapped, handcuffed, spit on. I mean, it's serious, man. I'm not kidding. These chicks want that shit, and they're it's a very, very common thing. It's not just me. I've spoken to various friends that I have from different racial groups, different economic backgrounds, different class, whatever, and all of them report that women like to be they like to simulate varying degrees of rape and abuse and domestic violence in bed. Of course, you don't go up to a woman and be like, "Hey, bitch," slap her across the face. This is something that you lead up to with an understanding that we're doing this as a pleasure thing or whatever. But yeah, women are into that. They're into getting their hair pulled, getting their asses smacked, getting smacked around sometimes. They love it. They
On
love
the
it.
sexual front, and this is not directly related, you know how women are freely allowed to express their preference for penis size and shape. Now, I didn't know this actress you mentioned, Barbaros, but I'm looking at her. She's getting fucked doggy style, and I'm looking at her labia, and I find her labia disgusting. You know, has men ever been asked?
I'm not a fan of vaginas, to be honest.
Exactly. That's my point. Is that
Yeah.
you know every woman has a fucking opinion about dick size, shape, blah 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 blah. Man, we have to be honest with ourselves. Yeah, we're heterosexual men, but when it comes to fucking pussies, you're lucky if there aren't some nasty ass flappy labia or some. Pussies are pretty
Dude,
fucking
I like Alexis Texas because she has a fucking incredible body. She has an ass like
yeah, I know.
out
But
of control ass.
her vagina looks like shit.
Yeah.
I actually have an anecdotal. I mean, I remember years ago, I had this this girl I was pursuing, and she was pretty good looking. This is like over 10, 11 years ago.
Yeah.
We finally got in bed, and you know, you don't have to, but you're gonna do the cunnilingus thing. And I'm looking at the thing, I'm like, holy fucking shit! These are like fucking like elephant ears here, man. I gotta fucking peel this shit back, and it was a total turnoff, you know.
Yeah.
And we can never talk about that. We can't express
Well, the thing is, Stardust. The thing is, right, that we can. I don't even care if women have a certain opinion about the aesthetics of the male member, right? If you have a preference, fine. Everybody has a preference. Yeah, you know, men that I've talked to, they're not a fan of like ugly fucking vaginas, and most of them don't look aesthetically appealing. I talked about this in my in my circumcision video.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
They don't. It's not exactly nature's best example of bioengineering. It's just not pretty.
Yeah, it's basically they made the outside on the woman look really good, and they're like, fuck, we don't have time to get to this part, and they just left it look like fucking nasty ass roast beef, basically.
Sure. But the thing is, Stardust, that even with that said, men don't go around insisting, except in like fucking maybe, you know, some parts of like Africa where female genital mutilation is prevalent. But men don't go around insisting that we cut at fucking birth the labia or the vaginas of little girls, of newborn infant girls. We don't do that. Women fucking think that, you know, they feel that they're entitled to this aesthetic preference of the male penis, and it really fucking infuriates me. It's like, who the fuck are you? Who the fuck
I think
are
that
you?
goes back to I think that just goes back to gynocentric ideals in general. I mean, especially now, I think we can make an analogy to the fat acceptance movement, where it's, you know, beauty comes in all sizes, all shapes, all forms. But as we all know, really, they're only talking about women. You know, as far as fat men are concerned, no, he's a slob. He needs to get off his ass and you know, get to a gym. So the reason why, Stardust, you mentioned why men don't complain about pussy, you know, the way it looks, is because if they do, what's wrong with her vagina? No, it's just as good as any. Come on, she's, you know, again, beauty comes in all
nature intended. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
But,
the thing is, like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but even though it's like headed by women, the fat acceptance movement does get a good amount of ridicule because it's so on its face ridiculous that you know, most people or a good number of people recognize instantly that it's fucking silly and retarded. But if anybody can pull this fucking kind of mental gymnastic and have it accepted in our culture at all, it's going to be women. Now, but even still, it gets a good amount of ridicule. I don't know if you guys saw this, but there's a meme on the internet where it's like a rhinoceros trying to be a unicorn, and the meme says, you know, sexy women have curves, right? And it's just a rhinoceros, and it's like trying to impersonate a unicorn. You know, it's like, it's that fucking ridiculous. People know on some level that it's stupid, right? And but imagine men then trying to pass off a beer gut as, you know, oh, you know, it's just as good as, you know, just imagine men dressed up in like shirts, like striking a fucking pose or whatever, saying, you know, oh, we're sexy too. You know, they're gonna get fucking laughed out of the fucking building or whatever. Everybody knows on its face it's just ridiculous. But women have such hope. What's that?
I think, man, in the sense that a kernel of hope in this regard. I mean, I see this in, say, video game or computer game culture, which, you know, personally, it's probably my biggest hobby. is that Teal, cover this. There was some feminist website that remodeled the bodies of women in video games to make them quote look real. I don't know. They basically put like 20 to 30 kilos on them, and they looked like shit afterwards. But whatever. I'm not as I'm not a blind faith in the market, but I do think that in this case, the market in relation to video games, people want, as I pointed out in my Skyrim video, I don't know if anyone watched that, people want a combination of good fantasy with a healthy dose of reality in games. But some of the fantastical elements, which are kind of a mixture of reality and fantasy, are that people want, really good-looking women, and they want their men to look like heroes, fucking huge pecs. But that's just what people want. Yeah. And that's what sells. And if you fucking change everyone into, fucking 30, 40, 50 pounds overweight plain Jane, that's not going to fucking sell. I mean, the evidence is Depression Quest is fucking free to play on Steam, and no one's playing it. Well, I'm thinking about doing an LP.
The thing is that, these archetypes, these physical archetypes, it came to being for a reason, because there's a fantastical element to the video games we play, and we're running away from our own average physiques. That's what people don't want to fucking understand or internalize, that these archetypes, Hollywood looks the way it does for a reason, because for whatever reason, we as a species want to be able to look at other people that are extremely attractive as things that we should aspire to, as models that we should aspire to, and it makes no. I mean, I don't understand the confusion surrounding why these archetypes also appeared in our video games. We idealize the human form. We all want to look like a Greek god or something, or goddess or whatever. This is normal human behavior to set up these archetypes and these physical standards to aspire to. It's normal behavior. That's what they ignore.
I think it's because they're only interested in their version of reality. This idea that women should be free to just be as they want to, but when it comes to men, no, you absolutely must live up to this standard because, well, fuck me, I have a vagina, I'm special.
Yeah. Well, that's why, like, for example, women are always leveraging. This is what MGTOW has correctly identified, I think, and this is where we are distinct from other portions of the manosphere, is that we have correctly identified that there is, in fact, a battle of the sexes going on, and women are always leveraging. Women know this almost instinctively, and as such, they're always leveraging society in order to accept their flaws and to demonize and limit the flaws of men. This is just a clear pattern of behavior that they demonstrate. Women want to be able to be accepted for being overweight. They don't want men to be accepted for being overweight. They don't, it's just clear. I mean, we see it everywhere we look. I mean, I don't understand why there's so much confusion in accept.
Well, I think, there might be some some nuance behind this, and this is just, I'm just throwing ideas out here, but it's a theory I've had for a while. One of the reasons why women push for this is because, it is nice if a guy has a nice body, but that's not his primary capital. He's a resource provider. Yeah. A woman's primary capital, of course, it's just her looks. That's everything for her, and that's why I think there's so much stress on that. Whereas, there's no corresponding movement of the beer gut brigade and men. Check my beer gut out because the guy with a beer gut could be making $800,000 a year or whatever, and that's kind of balance it out significantly. Yeah, but women.
But I think even still, like, starters, you don't hear about men. Like, show me a campaign where men are talking about income shaming. It just doesn't exist because men understand reality. They understand that if they don't make as much income as this guy, then according to women, they're going to be assessed as a lower value, man or whatever. That doesn't mean that they can't then. Sorry, can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
That doesn't mean that they can't then decide to go their own way and live their life for themselves. But they still know their place in the hierarchy of female attraction, and that the fact that they make less money than this guy is going to place them lower on that. They understand that. Women seem to not to. I don't, or maybe they do, and they want to minimize. They want to rig the game essentially.
Well, something just occurred to me. I can't remember if it was you or Stardust who mentioned, women keep pushing men towards perfection because they want men to live up to this ideal. Is that maybe a double-edged sword in a way? And I'm looking at it from the perspective of you keep pushing a man to improve himself, you know, whether it's physically, mentally, financially, whatever. Might he get to the point where he says, you know what, I feel really good right now, I don't need you anymore, and then he inadvertently becomes, he may not realize he's gone his own way in that regard, but or maybe he even has it because it was a woman who made him do it. But he once he figures out, oh, I don't need you anymore because now I feel great. Then she says, oh shit, what have I created? I've created a monster type of deal.
Well, I think actually that pans out a bit differently. Usually when that happens, the guy just finds a higher SMV woman, basically a woman who looks better or whatever, because if he's really that much more successful, he realizes he can get something better than whatever he was dealing with in the first place.
Well, I think that's like a communal thing. I don't think women are really cognizant of it. I think they do it just automatically, and the end result is an overall raising of the type of quality of man that they're looking for. They want to exert this pressure onto all men, you know, in their country or nation or civilization or whatever, in order to raise the general quality of man that they have access to. And also they do this also by, you know, perhaps trying to push up the age of consent. There's all these little things that they advocate for and pursue almost on a subconscious level that benefits. I mean, this is Borg behavior we're witnessing, right? There's the individual. There's the individual, you know, desire or selfishness that women exhibit. But I think that what we're talking about here, this dynamic, it takes place more on the Borg level, the macro scale, because women, you know, they know that that in the end they're going to benefit from it. And yes, okay, so maybe one individual guy says, you know what, I've improved myself so much that I could get a better girl, but the end result is that she's going to have an entire pool of men that she can draw from that have been forced to compete at a higher level for their affections and attention, right? So it's kind of like an insurance policy of sorts. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
Are you still here, Turd Flinging Monkey?
No, he left.
Right. I should see the image. That works. Okay.
So
tell me, totally different note, man. What? Tell me about your toy collection. That sounds interesting. What kind of toys do you collect? I know this is not really related to the topic, but
that's okay, and I don't mind answering that. Well, it started in September of 2012 with Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park is actually my all-time favorite movie. It has been since first movie I remember seeing in theaters when I was 6 years old, and of course I had a bunch of toys growing up from the film. And then I was just at work back in the summer of 2012. I was bored browsing around a website called jptoys.com, and I saw a list and images of all these toys I used to own. I thought, holy shit, that's really cool. So I went over to eBay, saw some of them, and I thought, oh, they're not too expensive. Maybe I'll pick one up. So sure enough, I ended up buying. I'm really simplifying it here, but I ended up buying it's called the Young Tyrannosaurus Rex from the first series back in 1993. And just seeing it, because I think it was the first Jurassic Park toy I ever owned, it just brought back this swell of nostalgia. And then one thing led to another, and I've just been collecting ever since. It's mostly Jurassic Park, but I've got some Star Wars, quite a bit of Pacific Rim. There's some Star Trek mixed in there too, and it's really, really just taken off. And it's like a never-ending scavenger hunt. And you know what the craziest thing is too? There's so much. It's a business too. Like a lot of people, especially, you know, they look at it and say, "Oh my God, you collect toys, man? That's so weird. Like, come on, you know, who does that?" It's fun though. It keeps me grounded. It reminds me of, you know,
it can't serve women. It can't serve women. That's the problem.
Well, that's the whole thing, man. I'm curious. I don't know if you ever talked to women about that, but I've for over a year now, I've been saving up for a supercomputer, and cause it's gonna be mad expensive, and that's what. So I've been saving for a while, and hopefully sometime, maybe in late fall, early winter, I'll be getting it. And sometimes I'll talk to female acquaintances. I have a couple, and they say, "Why would you ever waste so much money?" And I just put up my hand. Well, I'm not actually sometimes talking to her. Like, nope. It's like, stop right there. Shut the fuck up. Did women ever give you shit about your toy collecting hobby?
Surprisingly, no. Actually, this has been the biggest surprise to me. like my girlfriend, she's a huge Doctor Who fan, and she understands the geek aspect and even nerd culture. And just me personally, speaking from women I've interacted with in the past couple of years, I think more women have a geekier side to them than they're willing to admit. But for whatever reason, they keep it hidden. They just don't want to come out and admit it. Like, especially being an art, like I'm also a working actor here in Toronto. I meet a lot of women who are a little bit more open-minded about that sort of thing, and they're not afraid to talk about comic books, toys, movies. And I think, Jesus Christ, just fucking come out. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. Just be your. If that's what makes you happy.
Contrarian, man, but in my experience, a lot of this. I mean, there are some women who are like that, but a lot of them are just kind of in it because Barbara. I mean, I remember this super old video, great video though, by Barbarossa, covering the Comic-Con. I think it was just 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. And slowly women were sort of infiltrating, creeping in. Then you see all the fucking cosplay and the women with the nice bodies, and a lot of it's artificial. Yes, there are women who genuinely enjoy this stuff, but I think they're in the minority. And a lot of women are just there because it's popular. Anything. Dude, if Dungeons and Dragons tabletop became super popular, hot women would be started, quote unquote, playing that too, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure we can all, you guys understand the whole bit about, women who dress up in sexy cosplay and then they scream and whine about, oh my God, a guy looked at me. Well, you've got your chest hanging out. What's the matter with you?
Yep.
You know?
Well, look, all of us have our little hobbies, right? Like I'm big into like transhumanism stuff. Try talking with a woman. See what happens.
Well, try talking to a woman about anything that isn't about, I don't know, going shopping or. I mean, let's face it. I've said this before. I mean, this is a non-controversial / controversial statement. It's non-controversial to anyone with a bunch of common sense, but women are some of the worst conversation partners in the world. I mean, 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10 times, I would much rather talk to a man. And then what you have, like I said, as Barbarossa famously said in his post-feminism man video, ass and tits and high heels and painting up faces that make them look like clowns. I mean, what else do most women bring to the table?
Well, you raise a good point because Doom was talking about his toy collection, right? And sure, I'm glad that there are a lot of women that don't have a problem with that. But we all know what the general trend would be, and most women would call it geeky or dorky or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Of course, I find that stuff cool, so I'm not, don't take that the wrong way, Doom. But it's the nerve of them to like look at men's hobbies if they involve toys or I don't know, like railroad, fucking sets or train sets or whatever. And then you go see you go see what they fucking shop for on their fucking spare time. Yeah. Stupid ass trinkets at fucking Bed Bath and Beyond, like useless crap, junk that is like that doesn't even exist more than a fucking month, like candles, fucking just ridiculous dumb.
Compare that to a supercomputer that's going to give you at least 2 years of perfect mileage.
Yeah.
Run everything at 1080, maybe 144 FPS. I mean,
you'll get criticized for playing a video game. A video game you can interact with. I can't interact with a candle. I can't interact with a.
You can mod it. You can try to create different characters. There's depending on the game. There's so many possibilities. There's a story that can really suck you in. I mean, a pair of high heels. They get bored with them anyway, and they fucking throw them out 2 months later.
This conversation reminds me of a comic I saw on Facebook not too long ago. It's a man and a woman in bed, and they're cuddling. And he says, "Oh, are you in the mood tonight?" And she says, "Well, no, not really. You just spent the last 2 hours playing, what was it, World of Warcraft or something." And then the next panel, he's getting out of bed and he says, "Okay, well then in that case," and then she immediately reacts, "Oh no, wait a second." And then in the last panel, they're cuddling and she's got this frown on her face and there's a thought bubble that says, "God damn it, not again."
Well, do you mind me asking? You said you have a wife. Sorry, Stardust thing's wife, a girlfriend. What is her view? What are her views on MGTOW and stuff?
Well, let me start off by saying she's been to a few cafe events with me. She's even met Karen Strawn. Certainly, when we first met, she did raise the wage gap and all that sort of thing. But for whatever reason, she's more open-minded to it, and she's even recognized that, yeah, women can be destructive, women can be really crazy. Like for example, we're on the same page when it comes to marriage and children, and when I brought up the topic of marriage in the past, she said no. She has herself has personally said no. A lot of women are just looking for men to take care of them, and it's encouraging. Certainly, I don't know if she knows about MGTOW. Certainly, she's seen some of my videos. But the videos that she has seen, she said, no, what you're saying makes sense. So that's the upside.
Right. I'm a bit confused. I mean, I'm going to sound like I'm not really too familiar with you, Dooms. I mean, I hope that that's cool with you. Are you an MRA or what? I mean, I don't really know anything about you. I'm sorry.
It's quite all right. I know you're a busy guy, but no, I started off as an MRA. Certainly, my first exposure to the manosphere was Karen Straughn's, feminism and the disposable male. And the more I explored it, the more this is interesting. I'd like to learn more about it because all my life, especially through my teenage years, I had sneaking suspicions about the way men and women interact, and it seemed like there was a bit of an unfair balance there. Like the first time I learned about how crazy feminism really can be, I think was in a philosophy class I took in grade 11 where my teacher, who was a male, was talking about how he had a rad femme professor back in university, and she said the English language is patriarchal, with history is really his story, and she spelled woman with a Y and all that sort of thing. And then I had another teacher, a woman
They
who
actually taught that shit?
Well, no, he just brought it up as an example of what happened to him when he was in school.
Okay.
But I took a class called World Issues as well, where on International Women's Day, which I didn't even know was a thing until then, she made all the boys sit on the floor, and she brought up, said, this is what happens to women in Africa, and this, that, whatever. And I thought, okay, that's fine and all, but for fuck's sakes, you're a teacher. You're supposed to be neutral. What are you doing bringing this shit into the classroom? Like, that's a no-no as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, I became an MRA, became involved with ABFM and so on and so forth. But when I realized how resistant people were to the idea of men's issues and presenting them, I started sharing it on Facebook and whatnot. And I realized how many people were so like, "Oh my God, you really just hate women." Of course, they all came out of the woodwork. Some people didn't want to associate with them. I thought, okay, whatever, fuck you. I don't need you. It's not the end of the world. And then I think Barbar, the first video I ever saw of yours was probably women demand place at Comic-Con, then scream sexism. Stardust, you'll have to forgive me. I think the first video I saw of yours was Why I Go My Own Way. And then I heard about MGTOW. I thought, this is interesting. What's this all about? And then the more I explored that, and I realized how much more intellectual it was as opposed to just being an MRA. And the more time I spent in MRA circles, it just seemed like they were spending so much time fighting with feminists on Facebook and Twitter, which I'm not going to lie. Every once in a blue moon, I get sucked into it more than I should. But I think, what are you guys doing? I understand some of you mean well, and you're not bad people. It's just I don't understand your approach here.
Yeah.
And MGTOW just seems so much more fulfilling.
Right. But I mean, your girlfriend still views you primarily as an MRA.
No, she doesn't. You know what? She doesn't. She just sees me as, okay, you're a guy who has your beliefs, and it's not affecting our relationship. It's not affecting the way you treat other people. So whatever, believe whatever you want. Hell, I even come out, and you might find this funny, but I've recently taken up the label of Satanist, as in LaVeyan Satanism, because I like the philosophy of this sort of hyper-individualist, libertarian perspective on life. And she doesn't care. She really doesn't care, and it's awesome that way. And I don't let that affect the way I treat other people. I mean, for example, I couldn't tell you how much money I pumped into this collection, but if I came down to, if it came down to me, say, let's say spending $300 on a T-Rex maquette versus a night out on the town, I choose the maquette just because it's so awesome.
Yeah. No, I'm on the same page, man. I'm still not done saving. This computer is going to be insanely expensive, but if you want the very best, you gotta. And here's the funny thing: I'm not going to even have enough money by the time I want to get it to get the equivalent of girls' gaming channels. I shit you not. Some of these girls' gaming channels, who they just they stick their tits out or whatever, they get a fucking $15,000 computer donated to them. Like, what the fuck?
That's incredible.
Yeah, they just get to send them. These are these fake game girling channels. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. One thing that's really important about going your own way is you pursue your hobbies almost ruthlessly, and investing a shit ton of money in what you want to do. That's what it's all about. It's like, if it's gaming, cool. If it's toy collecting, cool. If it's whatever it is, you do it, and you don't let outside forces interfere with that.
Hey, just so you know, I left you a Stardust. If you check the group chat box here, I've left you a link to my Instagram account. You can have a look there and see what it's all about. But you know, you were mentioning what girl channels do. It's unbelievable. There's this
girl gaming channels specifically. I mean, these fake-ass gaming channels where they get tens of thousands of dollars donated to them, and then they have some guy build the computer for them, and then I mean, it's insane.
What I was gonna relate it to, I have a follower. Her name is JP Fangirl, I think. Now she's a Jurassic Park fan, and sure, she has quite a bit of material.
Can I interrupt for 1 second while you guys before you guys continue? I'm on the YouTube link, and I just wanted people watching this. There's like almost 200 people watching. If you have any questions, maybe we can answer some before we up here.
I'll be here for another half an hour to 40 minutes. Getting late here. If you have any questions, I'm looking at the chat here. So go.
Also, gentlemen, for those of you watching, I apologize that this Hangout's not on my channel like we originally planned. I was running into some technical difficulties, but Barbarossa, bless him, has obviously graciously agreed to host. So thank you once again for tuning in, guys. And I promise the next time we do this, hopefully there won't be as much confusion.
Well, anyway, you guys have questions you want to ask us? Anyone listening? So I'm looking at the chat box.
Let's pull it up here.
It's quiet. Yeah, maybe not. Well, we'll keep it open.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, anyway, as I was saying, there's this girl. She has her own Instagram account. She has some material related to Jurassic Park, but the majority of her posts are just her posing in sexy poses, whatever. And she's a gorgeous woman. I'll grant her that. But I probably have twice as many posts as she does, like in terms of pictures. But she probably has 3 or 4 times as many followers. Why? Because she's a hot girl. I think, guys, seriously, just be fools here. It's not as if she has any relevant material.
Well, you know how ridiculous some of these they get when they're streaming on Twitch, for example. There's literally a category called either most generous or best white knight, and that's always the guy that gives them the most money. There's literally that category, and I don't blame them. I mean, if I were some young hot chick, I'd probably do the same thing. I mean, you got to use what you have to use
Dude, I actually blame the men for this phenomenon.
Yeah.
They're the ones subscribing to these chicks. I mean, it's a joke. It's like a woman. Whatever. I'm not gonna go fucking start beef with any like specific fucking female MRAs or whatever. I don't even care about all that bullshit. If they want to make channels, great, good for them. But like, it's you can clearly see the pattern. Even if some of the girls that make these videos are putting out good content, you can clearly see that they get more. I mean, I don't think any one woman in the manosphere produces better content than the best men in the manosphere. Yeah. I think that's a safe thing to say. And yet, the highest subscribed people in the manosphere are women.
Yeah, I do want to answer one question. I mean, there were a bunch, but I think I want to keep it relevant in the talk. Let me just scroll up. What the hell? Where was this? No, there was a meditation one. Sorry, there you go. Question kind of directed to me. Do you even think it's point in screening for a quote-unquote good woman? I wouldn't use the term, and I think it's relevant, a good woman. I mean, I think women are always women. AWOL. Every woman is a woman. It's just, I think they're kind of degrees to some extent. A woman, as I mentioned, if you have a woman who's just hyper emotional instantaneously, you don't want to deal with that sort of shit. I mean, there's sort of obviously red flags, I think. I'm hardly what I would call an expert, and for the most part, I still just kind of stay away from women. I just have a kind of open mind, but open mind to what? That's the question. I mean, women are still going to be women. And at the end of the day, women are essentially just, what's their value to men? It's kind of the sex and the physical proximity they offer. They're not giving you something apart from that. So, yeah, so there's the answer to your question.
I see a question I wanted to address. What's your opinions on the gender segregation in the UFC? This is a pretty simple answer. if women competed with men in the UFC, they'd get destroyed, and that's why it's segregated. I mean, I don't know what the you know. It's just that simple. I know there's a controversy with what's her name, Ronda Rousey. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. She's claiming that she could take Floyd Mayweather, who wasn't even trained in mixed martial arts. I think even still, if the two went at it, I think that Floyd would probably beat her. But who knows? You know, if he's not trained in mixed martial arts, maybe she could pull out a win with a submission, like a something. But in terms of females competing with men in the UFC, Ronda Rousey would get destroyed by probably the worst male UFC fighters out there. It's just a fact, I think.
Well, you know, there's the famous story about the best female arm wrestler in the world who got beaten by average guys.
Yeah.
And so probably a similar situation there.
And there was didn't fucking Man Woman Myth, man, I missed that guy. Didn't he make a video talking about how the fucking fastest male times in the Special Olympics were faster than the regular Olympics for women, like for track running or whatever. Yeah. I mean, there's just such a.
Well, I mean, this is why I made that recent video about feminism, to a large extent, is just a giant projection. It's just fucking an inferiority complex. I mean, generally speaking, men are better at just about everything that you can do, more or less. I mean, you could argue women are. The only thing that's mildly arguable is, you know, maybe women are better at reading social cues. It's probably true, but the most important stuff, men are just better at, and this bothers women. This is why women need a fucking.
Guys, we have a bit of a.
Yeah, I don't know where that's coming from.
I don't know. Let's see here. Do any of you guys have? All right.
Oh, it's fucking really bad now.
You guys have.
It's better now. Okay.
The YouTube video on mute, because that can cause an echo if you don't have it on mute.
I do, yeah, just because I didn't want the feedback to go on. So yeah, I'm only keeping the video open so that I can see the questions that are scrolling down.
Yeah. I have. We should all have it on mute. I think it's gone away now. So.
Yeah. No. Yeah. But so basically, everything that's of any value to civilization in the world, you know, men generally do better, with very few exceptions, and. This is a giant inferiority complex. You know, I eventually going to get around to this, but you know, the amount of data on the brain differences it's staggering, and it's very telling as well. And there's vested interest to keep people from getting this. As I mentioned in a previous video, MGTOW is really great at getting in contact with academic professionals. He's tried to contact over 40 neuroscientists, men and women, who study gender or sex-specific brain differences, and they refuse to come on and talk about it because they know the results would not be flattering to women.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the physical stuff is pretty obvious.
Yeah. It's like apparent.
There is a question here that I'd like to address just quickly from Fraser Jeffrey. I'm a 16-year-old MGTOW. Do you have any advice for me? I will say this. If I were your age and I knew then what I know now, certainly, I'm not going to say I would avoid women entirely, but I wouldn't spend my time chasing them. I'd invest in myself and just I would have spent more time doing what I really enjoyed doing at that age.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with the basics. Don't get anybody pregnant. Don't get married.
Yeah.
Don't get married.
Well, the other thing is, at that age, it's very easy to cave into peer pressure, but if you can not do that and just keep on doing what you want, and you know, maybe you'll end up being a quote unquote freak who fucking cares. In the long run, it's gonna pay off a lot more. And I think it's just great that a guy your age or anyone your age is picking up on this, man. I nearly lost my life to women-related shit, and my life got totally skewed off track. I mean, all my plans went down the tubes. I had to basically recreate myself, and I mean, this is. That's why, man, getting hold of this. I mean, don't get married, don't get a girl pregnant, and depending on where you are, assuming you're in the United States, be really careful with women because it's. I mean, we haven't talked about it, but there's a real danger in just dealing with women. False rape accusations, all this shit, and particularly at your age, you don't want to risk that because you have your entire life ahead of you.
Yeah, I got to agree with that. There's a question here too from Psychological Cynic. By the way, good to see you here, man. Do you guys have an ideal world for men? How would it look for men? How women would be, and how the two genders would interact? Well, I'll say this. Speaking for myself, it would be a world where, as Warren Farrell once said, where men are seen as human beings, not as human doings. You know, where we're not treated like disposable utilities. How would it look for, in terms of how we would interact? I
think that's very hard to predict. That's very hard to predict. I think the ideal world is men get to keep their assets. Men get to have equal rights in terms of paternity, their children or whatever. But most importantly, they get to keep the money they earn, and then the rest will take care of itself. And of course, a healthy respect for fatherhood, and a healthy respect for, even more importantly, for bachelorhood, right? And the male fucking condition, a deep understanding of that. I think fatherhood is important. I support fathers' rights, but most importantly, I think the more important aspect that we have to understand if we want an ideal world for men is the experiences that craft men as they age and go through life. We need a much deeper understanding of that, and when we arrive at that, men are going to be a lot more happy, men are going to be a lot more at peace, and they're not going to feel like they need to validate themselves through a vagina, essentially. Once we achieve that, it's a tall order, but if we do, men will be fine. Men will be fine.
Yeah, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. But.
Yep, that's the big question. Is it possible? But if we can achieve that, and we're good to go. We can focus on fucking getting to the stars if we achieve that, I think. But it's just, there's so much time and energy invested in reproduction at this point that we're really degrading the potential of our species at this point. It's I mean, if you think about it on a macro scale, it's pretty depressing. But on the micro scale, we as individuals, we're doing a lot better than we could potentially be doing if we had just gone down the standard get married, blah blah blah, wedded bliss, or hell, actually, and and this is my response. I mean, people talk about populating the world. I mean, I don't know why people worry about shit like this. The demographic. You live one life, and that's it. And why the fuck would I care about what's going to be 500 years from now? It's one, and I think we lose sight of that. Men have a deep sense of sort of duty, almost of obligation. Even I do now, and if I make a promise to someone, even if I don't like the person, I might find him or her odious, I feel like I kind of have to keep it. Women tend not. Here's an interesting one, guys. I don't mean to interrupt you, Stardust. Can you still hear me? Social isolation in a conservative society, how do you deal with it? I don't know, maybe that person can give a little bit more context to the question.
Well, it sounds like what they're asking is, how do you go about, going your own way in a society that is already prone to be anti-MGTOW?
Yeah. It's Stardust. Stardust, can you hear us?
Oh yeah, sorry. I accidentally hit the off switch on my headset. My bad. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. This is actually an interesting question because I've thought about this a lot. In a lot of ways, the chaos that feminism has created has given us cover. In a truly conservative traditional society, men are just heavily screened and sort of picked up to fulfill their tasks. And men are all about performing duty. We're really kind of good at that, unfortunately. And the chaos that the feminist movement's created and the women who support it and just the chaos we're experiencing now, it gives us cover. It lets us do what we're doing right now. And a conservative society where you don't have that present, a man who is going his own way is essentially a kind of he's kind of a convict in a way. He's outside of what the expectations, and they're going to home in on him and try to pick him out. So that's a really good question. But what do you do in a conservative society like that? I mean, how conservative? I lived in South Korea for over 2 years, and it's hard to get much more conservative than that. And this is a place where, as part of your job obligations, it's, you know, after work is to get drunk and feel disgusting with your boss after work, and go to bed and get no sleep, for example. You know, so I don't really know. I don't know if there's a solution to that. Being in a super conservative society, but on the positive note, a lot of societies, as I noticed, are just sort of loosening up. Korea is less conservative than it used to be. So is Japan. United States, you really couldn't call it conservative anymore. I don't know. I think if you're young, at least you can give it some time. And here's one thing you can try. I mean, if you've actually, I've never had to deal with this, but I know guys that actually are from a conservative family or environment, and they'll say, "So John, why aren't you married?" And then you got to somehow deal with that shit. And the answer, you can be factual and say, because there's this risk of that, and blah 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 blah, and you know, just be honest about it. Most people don't have an answer to that, and they tend to shut the fuck up if that's the issue that's bothering you.
All right, guys, I think we're going to take one more here. What are your thoughts on Hillary Clinton?
I think she is a parasite. I think if she ends up winning, then quite frankly, the United States deserves her, because she is going to... Jesus Christ, I don't even want to think about what's going to happen to men in that country. I mean, really, I say that with everything in me.
It might be the fucking, you know, the disaster that men need to wake them the fuck up.
One can hope.
What's that?
He said one can hope. I mean, I haven't really voted in a super long time. I mean, but suffice to say, Stephen Harper seems like a better option than Hillary Clinton. Not saying in your Canadian guy's case he's great, but...
Well, maybe relatively speaking, but honestly, yeah, maybe he's one of the lesser evils, but they're both batshit insane. Me personally, when it comes to elections, like the last provincial election we had here, I declined my vote. I went to the voting ballot and I said, no, I will decline to vote, because it was officially counted as it's your way of saying I vote for none of the above, because I think you all suck. I wish it would catch on with more people, but that's just my opinion.
What do you guys think about? I saw. Oh, we're getting some bad reverb here.
Yeah, it's really bad static. Huh?
Okay, it seems to have improved. What do you guys think about? I saw somebody just post if Trump splits the vote, 2016, we're pretty much guaranteed to get Hillary. Any thoughts on Trump?
Man, I mean, it's just different piles of shit. I mean, it's like...
I agree.
Shit from a Great Dane versus the shit from a Dalmatian versus the shit from a fucking Labrador. I mean, is it... Yeah, I mean, there might be some slight differences. Maybe even comparing cat shit to dog shit. I don't know, but it's still fucking shit. I just don't... What's the point in fucking voting? It's a joke.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
It's a fucking joke.
Yeah. Like, nobody, like... For example, even I have my hang-ups about people like Rand Paul. He'd probably be a hell of a lot better than Clinton, but even still, these people like Rand Paul just don't stand a chance of getting elected whatsoever. So we're either going to get Trump or Bush or Clinton, and those are all going to be fucking disasters. So you know,
Clinton would be the worst, I think. I hate to say it. I'm not partisan to either party, but Clinton would be the worst.
You know, I think it's all three of them. I think they would all be so bad that even though Clinton is going to be the worst, it really doesn't make a difference at that point. You know, they're all so bad that we're screwed either way. You know, but you know, it is what it is. I mean, what are you going to do really? Certainly, our votes aren't going to make any kind of difference. And I'm not. I made a joke that I might, you know, consider voting for Trump just so we can get a Republican, just so people see that, you know, there's nothing that's going to change, and, you know, just voting for fucking the right isn't going to fucking change shit for men. But yeah, I'm not going to get my ass up on election day and vote. It's just pointless to me.
But you can. I mean, DoomRulz. You can. I mean, it's kind of inapplicable to you being Canadian. But I guess you guys look at the elections down south, the kind of interested as an
soap opera.
Yeah. Was that an accurate way of putting it?
I would say so. I mean, in some cases, I think we take just as much interest in American elections as we do as the Canadian, because, I mean, let's face it, everything the U.S. does impacts us in some way, because obviously we're neighbors and we're very, very close that way. I remember when the election was going on in 2004 between Bush and Kerry, you know, we really had our eye on, you know, who was going to win. Was it going to be Kerry or Bush? Especially because Harper is very, very pro-Iraq war. He's very, very, you know, anti-terrorist that, crackdown criminals that. I mean, he's basically our version of George Bush. I hate to say it, but that's really there's no other way of describing him.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Guys, a little bit of a shameless promotion. I do want to bring your guys' attention to an article that I posted on a gentleman by the name of, oh boy, I'm forgetting his name, Khalif Browder, right? This was a guy who hails from me and Stardust's homeland, the Bronx, and this was a 16-year-old boy at that point, I guess, a 16-year-old boy who was arrested. He was arrested because somebody accused him essentially of stealing a backpack. And so he was arrested. He was taken to Rikers Island. He was jailed there. He spent 3 years in Rikers Island. Didn't receive a trial, anything. Attempted suicide multiple times. And the guards, you know, they would starve him. This was the punishment after he attempted suicide. They would punish him by starving him for attempting suicide, even though he made multiple requests for mental health screenings and all of that. I think it's a men's rights issue. I think it's important. There's an article on my site, sheddingoftheego.com, talking about that. And you know, unfortunately, he ended up after he finally got out of jail, and he wasn't convicted of any crime. But you know, it took such a toll on him that he finally did kill himself. You know, I think it's certainly a case that that we need to look at, and you know, it's actually pretty sad, but you know.
Yeah, I'm actually I couldn't. I need to talk to my friend again. I mean, I don't know if it's right to do it, but as I said, I talked to a friend of mine who lives in South Korea. Is originally from Wales, and his cousin, the daughter of his late now dead uncle, falsely accused her own father of sexual molestation. And the police were coming for him, and then they found his fucking body hanging from a tree. And I mean, and apparently she was celebrating this on Facebook or something, and somehow the mother was complicit. I'm going to try to find out more information about it, because it's just another example of just how horrific. I mean, all you need is an accusation for this sort of thing, and that's it. Your life is kind of over.
Yep. Well, I'm gonna put in, guys listening to this, I'm gonna put in the link to that article. I really want you guys to watch the video. He did an interview. He described exactly what they were doing. There's video of that surfaced after his suicide, showing that the guards would beat him. Just a really horrible case. Just please go look at that, because I think it's very important. You know, the prison systems are a fucking disaster. That's all.
The worst in the world in the United States.
Yeah. By far the most populated fucking prison system of any country in the world.
Yeah.
What was the name of that? What was the name of that gentleman again? You just told us about, the one who tried to.
Khalif Browder. If you're looking at, are you looking at the YouTube page right now, Doom, or?
No, I'm not. But I just looked up the name. I found it here.
Okay, yeah, you know, it's like the third site on my, actually I can just send you the link.
Yeah, please do,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have time for it, but if we ever do another hangout, I mean, it's just strictly related to MGTOW, Doom, but I'd like to hear your take on the East-West Canadian divide. The fact that basically the Western provinces give you all your shit and you just kind of drain them of the resources, so... not now, maybe another time.
Totally, yeah. No, Stardust. I'd be more than happy to. Yeah. I have a question. Are you on Skype by any chance, sir?
You don't have to call. You can just call me Stardust. I mean, I think I'm in my very late 30s, so I'm not that old.
Okay.
But I'm old, but not that old. But yeah, I'm on. We can. I'll tell you what. I'll message you on what do you call it? I only slept 2 hours last night, so what am I talking about? I'll message over YouTube, and we can exchange Skypes. And it might make for an. I mean, there are a couple of things I wanted to talk to a Canadian about for a while, so maybe you're the man in this regard about. Well, Toronto kind of being the epicenter of feminism. I wanted to talk about the political divide as far as the resource-rich provinces are concerned versus, the Ontario and Quebec and so on. So yeah, maybe you'd be up for a MGTOW talk at some point in time.
I'd be honored to, certainly. Just let me know.
Yeah, so I'll send you after the talk at the very latest tomorrow because it's very late here. I'm 6 hours. Well, not that late, but I am 6 hours ahead of you guys. So I'm going to be getting off very soon, like in 10 minutes. Anyone have some last-minute questions before my exhaustion totally fucks up my cognition, and you want to just because I'm losing my ability to think and speak. This takes a while for it to filter in, so I'll just wait for them.
Yeah, I'm watching them, so if I see anything interesting,
okay.
Yeah, I gotta probably get going in about 10 minutes myself. So, yeah, but this was a good talk,
Indeed, it was. And listen, Barbara, thanks again for hosting. I appreciate it. Sorry for the difficulty I was having earlier on.
Not a problem. Again, I would have gladly hosted it on your channel, but considering the fact that more people got to see it, I guess on my channel because of subscribers, I guess that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Let's see.
Millennial Wolf. I don't even know what that is, man. I don't know. Millennial Woes. I don't. I'm sorry, Istis. Or I don't know.
Hey, there's something here. Just quickly. Just caught my eye. Veritech Ace says, in response to Budding Hopeful's recent article on shedding of the ego, I've decided to create a MGTOW wiki. What are your thoughts on that?
HD failure. I can answer that. I think there are two reasons why MGTOW tends to be Anglophone-centered or English-centered, and one is that all this shit that's really, really bad, I've talked about this before in videos, tends to be in Canada, the United States, the UK, Australia, etc. I've talked about this with German guys before and Dutch guys. Shit in Europe here is not quite as bad as it is in the States. I mean, a lot of the shit, I use this example, in the United States, you should be worried about going to an elevator alone with a woman. You really should be. You should take the stairs, maybe. Nobody thinks that way in Germany, generally speaking, or in the Netherlands, for example. So I think that's one reason. Now, I'm not going to promise this, but one thing I've been thinking about doing maybe sometime next year is starting up a kind of twin channel, but a German language version of my channel just for German speakers. To spread the MGTOW ideas and philosophy in Germany. But that's not a promise, it's just an idea I have. So, yeah, just to answer that question. Shit's a lot worse over there, man. I did grow up in the States, but it's just insane. I mean, some of the stories I hear, it's not that bad here. Not yet. Most people theorize, the Europeans I talk to, they theorize that in 10 to 20 years it's going to be just as bad here as it is over there. And even worse over there than it is right now. So,
you think that the U.S. can accept uncircumcised men to a greater extent eventually? They're starting to drop, I believe, the rates of circumcision. I don't know. I don't know how significant it is, but it's starting to go down. So hopefully, we'll see. Who knows? I know now they're putting. I guess they're using the foreskin is very rich in fibroblasts, which people are using now in like wrinkle cream for women, which is pretty fucking bizarre. Pretty sick, to be honest. But hopefully, I don't know. But I certainly hope so. But if it becomes apparent that there are applications towards to be found and implemented by collecting the foreskins of mutilated babies, then probably not.
Someone here asked, what is it? Oh yeah, Henrik Unit, tips for sharing MGTOW on Facebook. In general, because I do this quite often, share something if you feel it's really, really important. I mean, me personally, I don't try to spam just anything that I think is even remotely related. If it's important, I'll share, especially if it means something to me. But pick and choose. I'd say, share the important stuff that can facilitate a good, healthy discussion.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen. It looks like we're going to bring this to a close here. Maybe one final question, and then we're going to hang it up here. Anybody? Let's see what the first, I guess, good question is. Best video to share on Facebook about MGTOW or gynocentrism? That's a good question. Guys, let me ask you, what is your favorite MGTOW video of all time?
Oh, geez. Well, off the top of my head, I'd have to say maybe one of Turd Flinging Monkey's videos. Which one was it? The egalitarianism cycle, I think, or where he breaks down the difference between gynocentrism or traditionalism and patriarchy. Those two come to mind. I'll say that certainly. I would recommend something by either one of you gentlemen. The only problem is I don't think the average person would really understand it, because I think just it's not as easy, it's not as accessible as something that others would make.
I gotta disagree vehemently. I mean, I know I don't want to mention names, but we all know there's been discussion about this, and even claim that without person X, no one would get introduced to MGTOW. Now, I've said this before. I'll say it again. I owe Barbarossa a lot. I mean, he helped me out a lot. He inspired my channel, etc. And my favorite video of all time is definitely Flawed Male Desire Leads to Traditional Parasitism. And I highly recommend, if you've never watched that video, it's fantastic.
Okay.
This was a time when here's the thing that Barbarossa has done that no one, including myself, has ever done. And I know everyone thinks I'm just kissing his ass. I'm not. I'm just being honest here. He brought an electricity and a fire to MGTOW and his videos that I've not seen, and I've not seen its like since. And I'm flat and monotone, so I don't do that anyway. It just doesn't exist. And these were my intros: the post-feminism man, one by one, men are catching on, stop arguing with women, women the new leisure class, flawed male desire in particular. I listened to that so many times. That particular video, the middle, and I doubt Barbarossa remembers specifically saying these things, but that I'll never forget when he said, make no mistake, I'm paraphrasing now, you'll find no consolation in the bosom of a woman. That desire to find that sort of angelic figure that's going to take care of you, the fact that you're alone, and I mean, these are much more powerful words than I've ever experienced in any of the newer generation stuff. And a lot of the older guys who've been around, we all got fucking introduced to MGTOW via Barbarossa stuff, or for that matter, even, may the gods rest his old soul, the happy misogynist, the old stuff.
Well, there was a man-woman myth, of course, And
man, sorry, I totally forgot the late man-woman myth as well. So
his videos are still up, by the way. His videos are still around. You just have to look for them.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that a lot of the I really think if you really want to feel electrified and feel because that's what really motivated me to make videos too. I'm almost certain if I had been around now and I just saw some quote-unquote introduction to MGTOW and shit, I wouldn't have been motivated. Barbarossa had brought a kind of fire and a passion that just had not existed and still doesn't exist. He's really, in that regard, it's something truly unique, and it's a great introduction. So it's a lot better than anything else available now. So.
Well, I want to stress something, and then we'll wrap it up here. There were several instances where. I was, I guess most people consider me to be around in the early days, probably one of the first MGTOW that, was there during this, whatever this is, right? This like explosion here on YouTube that created and popularized, it wasn't anybody else. There were forums, there were MGTOW pro boards, etc. But this explosion in popularity that MGTOW has experienced. I'm going to go ahead and say it right here and right now. And this isn't bragging because it certainly wasn't, me or whatever. It was all of us. That happened here on YouTube. YouTube is responsible for that. And, various forums, MGTOW Pro Boards, MGTOW HQ, MGTOW.com. That is what's driving the popularity of MGTOW. But back then, when I was first starting out, there was very little MGTOW content. What ended up happening, and this is just my perspective of how it evolved. What ended up happening is, I put out a couple of MGTOW-related videos or whatever, and that started, specifically the post-feminism man. That fucking really started to get a lot of attention. And then, I got to admit, I kind of got disillusioned and was considering at certain times, just leaving it, behind. I thought that I had said everything that I had to say, and there was definitely a point where I actually considered just leaving MGTOW, and that was before, I think, possibly before I uploaded, well, definitely before I uploaded videos like Humanity First and Foremost and Powered by Orgasm.
Great, those are other videos, top threes. I mean, I just love those as well.
But it was, I do want to stress, because I want to make it clear what brought me back was videos from, specifically Stardust, Man, Woman, Myth, Spetsnaz to some degree. These are the guys that kept me going, so I don't want to, I just don't, yeah, I've put out some good videos, but definitely, it was you guys that kept me here. So I just want to stress
mutual,
that.
Man. I mean, without you, my channel wouldn't have been around, and if I helped inspire to keep on going, then that's great too. Yeah.
Well, hopefully we can inspire some more people.
I definitely think so. I mean, guys, if you're not sub to CS MGTOW, I know I'm kind of biased, but
CS MGTOW
he does some really good stuff. He's very smart. And he's got this knack, due to his involvement in the pharmaceutical industry, of getting hold of academic professionals to talk about these things. And I think that adds a new dimension to MGTOW discussions. So if you're not sub to CS MGTOW, please go ahead and do so. Very nice guy. And,
also, by the way, sorry, I just want to quickly say one video by Barbar too that I recommend you all check out for our viewers if you haven't seen it yet. A response to Stone on MRA dysfunction. It's a long one.
Yeah, that was really good as well.
That was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. Humanity First and Foremost. There are a whole bunch. But as far as the classics are concerned,
well, if people do like those videos, I still have the transcripts of. I'll gladly post them on the site for anybody who doesn't want to sit through fucking an hour. What was it, 2 hours long video? It's just. I'll post it on there. I saw somebody post a comment saying they wish that Shedding of the Ego was on the top MGTOW result. It's getting there. It's getting there. We're on now, before a month ago, my videos weren't even popping up in the Google search results for terms like gynocentrism, terms like MGTOW, but they are now. I think we're on the second or third page for MGTOW. We're on the first page for gynocentrism. Give it time. It's getting there. My Alexa rank has gone from 700,000 to 200,000. It's getting there. It's growing, and you guys have helped that come along. So I just want to express appreciation. And with that, I believe that I'm done here. Unless you guys have anything else to say, we're going to end it.
That's it. Thanks. Thanks so much for your time. Really, both of you.
Wait, before it ends, I'm just gonna, you don't have to repeat it, but here, you can just add me on Skype right now. I'm sending it to you, Sammy.
Oh, by the way, you know what? Guys, why don't we put your channels in there just in case somebody hasn't subscribed to you guys yet,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Hold on, how the fuck? Here, guys, you guys might have to do that on your end because my video is fucking, it's behaving weird.
Sure, just give me a sec here.
Yeah, Doom. At least Doom, because I doubt that anybody's not subscribed to Stardust at this point, listening to this. But at least Doom, put your, Stardust can if he wants to too. But probably everybody is subscribed at this point that's listening to right now.
All right, I just accepted you, Sammy. So yeah.
Yep. The only request I have when we do a MGTOW talks eventually, Stardust, is just refer to me by my online name, just because I mean, I realize my
no
real name's out there, but
I was a bit confused too. Doom's because it kept on changing. So Doom,
yeah, I think
Doom is the way to go.
yep, DoomRulz. That's the one.
Okay, I'll just call you Doom then. That's easy enough.
That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. This is, by the way, this is what we have to do. You know, we have to build, you know, networks and communities because the attacks on MGTOW are going to start ramping up. All right. We have to stick together, people. We can't. You know, we can't allow. There's going to be. I'm telling you, I have a knack for predicting these things. If you guys remember my Nawalt video,
yeah, I remember that.
Attacks are going to. They're going to start coming out of the woodwork. Just be warned, be advised. All right. With that said, gentlemen, Doom, did you put your channel in there?
Yeah, it's in the group chat box, Bar.
Okay. All right. Excellent. All right, guys. We're gonna end this and fun talking to you guys.
All right. Cool.
Yep.
Cheers. Thank you.